A very good morning to you. Welcome to day 2 of the week, and this is how we kickstart it. It's a joyous Tuesday, and we want to share that joy with you. Wherever you are, thank you for joining the conversation. So coming up shortly, the news in just a bit, and right after that, the news review. A lawyer, Kwapong, joins us for that, after which we'll bring you sports. And then from there, we'll get into our big stories for the day. We can't miss this one. Everyone was sitting on tenterhooks yesterday, listening with rapt attention to former Trade and Industry Minister Alan Kwapong. Now, he has resigned from the governing New Patriotic Party. Did you see that coming? Well, the disappointed presidential aspirant of the MPP, who placed third during that party's Superdelegates Congress, will contest the 2024 election as an independent presidential candidate. Now, at a much publicized press conference on Monday, that is yesterday, he made the announcement of his immediate resignation. We're bringing you details of that story, what he had to say, what his plans are for Ghana, and why he feels he is the ideal candidate to lead this country into that, well, land flowing with milk and honey. Stay tuned for that.
The party that I joined in 1992.
Also coming up, more than 1,500 residents, encompassing women and children from 500 households, find themselves displaced by floodwaters in Wipe, located in the central Gonja district of the Savannah region. According to the Central Gonja Office of the National Disaster Management Organization, 239 adult males and 230 adult males, in addition to 348 boys and 427 girls, have been compelled to evacuate their homes. We'll bring you some details on that in terms of the very sad situation, the pathetic situation actually, that our brothers and sisters are enduring. Also on this belt, the Center for Regional Integration in Africa, CREA, and the African Capacity Building Foundation, in collaboration with the Ghana Institute of Management and Public Administration, are organizing the 2023 Regional Integration Issues Forum as a conference for African SMEs under the theme, Breaking Business Barriers for AfTA Acceleration. The AfTA has been with us for a while now. The question is, what are the boons? What are the benefits? And how can we accelerate those? Well, all of that coming up on the show this morning. Just share your thoughts with us via the live streams and when we activate the phone lines. Right now, though, just stay with us for the news up next. Thank you for staying with us. Let's get right now into our first story. And former Trade Minister Alan Kwapong has officially resigned from the governing New Patriotic Party to contest the 2024 election as an independent candidate. Mr. Kwapong described the handling of his petition on the conference by the National Council as unmeritorious and unconstitutional. He said it was clear to him that his services and contributions to the party were not appreciated, and his continuous stay in the party would create further tension and division, hence his resignation from the party.
Carefully analyzing the results of the Superdelegates Conference, I issued a press statement on the 6th of September this year, declaring my intention to exit the process leading to the presidential primaries. In the run-up to the Superdelegates Conference, the National Council of the party made some of the most controversial and contentious decisions in the history of our party. They rejected a petition signed by 9 out of the 10 aspirants requesting for the Superdelegates Conference to be held in one location, as well as to allow each delegate at the conference to nominate 5 persons instead of 1, in line with the provisions of our party's constitution. In my humble and considered opinion, the decisions of the National Council were both unmeritorious and unconstitutional. It is abundantly clear to me that my services and contributions to the party are not appreciated. And that my continuous stay in the party will create further tension and divisions, which is an exact replay of the circumstances that led to my decision to resign from the party in 2008. Under the circumstances, and given the context provided, I wish to use this platform to announce that I'm honorably resigning with immediate effect from the new Patriotic Party to contest. Thank you very much. To contest for the high office of the President of the Republic of Ghana in the 2024 general elections as an independent presidential candidate.
Now, there has been an increase in the number of criminal cases recorded recently in the Ashanti region. These cases, mostly involving women, have left some residents in fear. There are calls for increased security intelligence addressing the menace. Nana Boakye Yadom has the rest of the story.
The Ashanti region has recorded the highest number of murder cases since the beginning of the year, according to the Bureau of Public Safety. The most recent incidents include the suspected gang rape of an 18-year-old lady at Bekwai and the murder of Akia Sewa, daughter of the Bekwai MC at Bibu, and the killing of Stella Osei by a house help at Sokobai Apaso. The latest is the shooting of a 25-year-old lady by a motor-riding gang at Aprade Junction in Kumasi. With a growing number of these criminal cases in the region involving women, residents of Aprade, Odium and communities dotted along the Kumasi-Ejoso Highway say they are living in fear. According to them, the growing number of cases recorded is a threat to their lives.
Oh, I say, oh, quiet. No matter what so, Fawebra.
They come here to rob us all the time. It is not something new.
No, plow. I just at a creek town, no more.
They stole my friend's laptop just here. It's really dangerous.
Prince Ohiniba Ejapon, an eyewitness to the recent motor riding gang shooting at Aprade, spoke to Joy News.
Motono. No motisutu o madress decent. Mo mbaka se bia church members bia na bisa. Ana se bi kra mo ye obi a mo nya basa basa. Eti me hu moto le betwa mo ko e. Anche be almost be 15 minutes time. Na me tisi to akasa wo kusados. A first no from hotel and say mo guest house. I saw
two men sitting on a motorcycle. Few minutes later, I heard a gunshot, so I even thought it is a car accident. But after asking my friends, I was told it's a shooting incident leading to the injury of a young lady. I then approached the lady and took her to the hospital.
Emma me rushe eko eho nkona gene da ba no me hu moto na chi so moko ama gende metam no ama de to taxi mu ye de ko living with.
Security analyst Dr. Jones Opokuware says the growing number of cases in the Ashanti region is a major concern. He suggests an increase in police deployment in peri-urban areas to ensure safety.
I have to be very honest with you. When you go to certain areas, especially areas that are peri-urban in nature, and if you look at some of these crimes, they normally happen somewhere within the peri-urban, or let's say a little aspect of the main city of Kumasi. Okay, you find police presence in those places much minimal. Okay, so what it means is that people who are motivated offenders could easily have their way. But what the police will have to understand is that once those things are happening, you need a lot of security. You need a reconfiguration of the security architecture in those communities, which I think we have not been able to match up to that.
For Joy News, Nana Boakye Yadom, Kumasi.
Now, the paramount chief of the Mampong traditional area in the Ashanti region is advocating the creation of the University of Mampong, which would incorporate all tertiary educational institutions in the area. According to Dasibre Osebunsu II, the present dispersed institutions would operate more effectively and efficiently under a centralized University of Mampong. Clinton Yeboah has more in this report.
The Mampong traditional area stretches from Jamasi, Ifijasi, and Ejira to Mampong Central. The traditional area is home to major higher educational institutions, including technical, vocational, and teacher training colleges. Speaking at the centenary celebration of the Mampong Technical College of Education, Dasibre Osebunsu said he has sent a petition to the Ministry of Education on his proposal for a unified university.
We have Nananum, and together with the Assembly, through the MCE, appeal to the Honorable Minister of Education to join all this conglomeration of various institutions, educational institutions, scattered within our Mampong traditional area, into one University of Mampong. We plead for that and we demand for that. I know the civil servants in Accra, what they will retort to me is, this will cost a lot of money and Ghana government has not for us and whatnot. It is completely wrong. Currently, Ghana government is putting all the bills of the various institutions in Mampong traditional area. Even go down to hospitals, all being funded by the same government of Ghana. So we realize that the budget was run out and we can't foot the bill.
The Mampong Technical College of Education, MAMTech, received alumni and affiliates to mark significant milestones in its 100 years of existence. The anniversary was themed The Role of Technical Vocational Education and Training in the National Development Agenda. Director General of the Commission for Technical and Vocational Educational Training, Dr. Fred Che Asamoah, lauded MAMTech's role in providing an industry-ready workforce.
I'm reliably informed that MAMTech is involved in woodwork, metalwork, construction, electrical, and home economics. Definitely, these are the trade areas that we can develop Mampong, its environment, and Ghana as a whole. A nation's economy, Nanache, is driven by its active labor force. The utilization of the productive workforce helps in development of the nation as a whole.
The Mampong Technical College of Education presently has a staff strength of 127 and a student population of 1,632. The institution, however, lacks an auditorium. As part of the anniversary, the college plans to construct a 3,500 capacity modern auditorium. Principal of MAMTech, Doris Boache Ansa, underscored the agency of the project.
Lack of an auditorium for holding official ceremonies. This motivated us to take this as a centenary project. It is my strong belief that our alumni and all stakeholders gathered here today will come to our aid to build a 3,500 capacity auditorium. I am by this reminding our president, now the representative is here, of his promise to the college on the 83rd birthday of Nana Mampong.
Reporting for Journey's Clinton Yeboah.
On now to our next story, and a new project has been launched to reduce conflict and ensure communal harmony in the West Mamprusi municipality of the Northeast region. The project is being funded by the Kofi Annan Foundation under its Change Makers initiative and is to be implemented by a youth-led peace-building non-governmental organization based in Wale Wale. Executive Director of the African Students for Interfaith Tolerance, Issa Toha Shamsu, explains the project will provide space for dialogue and negotiation as the most effective way of preventing and managing rising indigenous conflict in the municipality. Correspondent Eliasu Tanko has the rest of the story from Wale Wale.
The project is named Youth InterReligious Parliament, with a team convening for dialogue and action. Under this project, over 30 young individuals from 5 communities in the municipality have been carefully selected to embark on extensive field campaigns to educate residents on the need to always resort to dialogue and negotiations during dispute and disagreement. This is part of efforts to further weaken the stem of unresolved conflict linked to partisan politics, religion, land, chieftaincy, and ethnic dispute in the West Mamprese municipality. A project was launched in Wale Wale on this year's International Day for Peace. It brought together several stakeholders, including traditional authorities, assemblymen, youth leaders, representatives of related NGOs, and members of the general public. It is being funded by the Kofi Annan Foundation and implemented by a regional-based non-governmental organization, the African Student for Interfaith Tolerance, ASFIT. Mr. Issa Touha Shamsuddin is Executive Director of ASFIT.
If you look around, we do not have safe spaces for dialogue where we can be able to learn from one another and build bridges across our religious and cultural backgrounds. So this platform that we are creating, we hope would be a safe space for young people across board so that they can be able to learn and build their capacity about what other people are doing within their worship centers and how it feels to be from other tribes and to engage with other ethnic groups. You realize that in northern Ghana, for instance, there are a lot of unresolved and protracted conflicts. And these conflicts are lying down, waiting for a little spark to catch that wildfire. And we know what happens when we have inter-ethnic conflicts in the region.
The Executive Director added that the project will include both online and face-to-face training sessions to equip youth with soft skills such as negotiations, nonviolent communication, mediation, and conflict resolution. He further explained that the Youth InterReligious Parliament Initiative aligns with several of the UN Sustainable Development Goals, including Goals 4, 16, and 17 respectively.
We know without peace, Ghana's effort towards achieving the UN Sustainable Development Goals would be derailed, and that would impact on the socio-economic state of this country. So for us, we are so excited and grateful that we've had a successful program.
Some of the participants commended both the Kofi Annan Foundation and the African Student for Interfaith Tolerance for the initiative and pledged their support for its successful implementation.
We those here, we already know peace is part of our life. But those who are misbehaving are actually the youth back in our communities. If they can be able to put a centralization, like forums and youth engagement, to explain to them and demonstrate to them to know the way forward about it. I think from that aspect, they will know that it's good you have peace in your community.
It was very interesting being with the program, and I am very happy because as it's coming, Campus work with Ladies Network to make them empowered. So with this, if a lady is empowered, there will be peace in the community. So I'm very glad it's coming on, and I'll urge each and every person to take part in it.
Elias Sotanko reporting from Wale Wale for Joy News.
In our next story, the lack of a sick bay at the St. Joseph's Orphanage at Drapa in the Drapa municipality of the Upper West region. We'll take a break. We'll bring you details of that story shortly. Thank you for staying with us. Our apologies for that abrupt end to the news, but we proceed from there with the news review. And we have two guests, Kweku Painto. He's a lawyer. He was in the studio for the first time a few days ago, and now we have in the studio as well, or was it even yesterday? And we have in the studio as well former president of the Ghana Journalists Association, Afeo Money. Both of them joined me for a conversation. Before we get into the newspapers, though, this segment always brought to you by Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic. They're offering men free prostate screening and women as well fertility screening for free. Here's where you can locate them at Spintex here in Accra, opposite the Shell signboard. There's also Kumasi, Kronumabwe behind the Angel Educational Complex. There's Takrady Anaji State Community 22, Techiman Hanswa, and Esiama in Zima. Their call lines 0244 867 068 or 0244 0274, I beg your pardon, 234 321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. But let's get into the papers now with our guests. Before we do so, this question I'll be putting to my guests, and I'm putting to you out there as well. If you can, share your thoughts with me on Joy News on Facebook, on social media, the live stream. I'd love to hear from you. Would you be willing to pay more taxes if the taxes would translate into better development? Our roads, hospitals, everything in between. Would you be willing to do that? Already, we're paying some of the highest taxes around. Others would say, well, if you look at the comparative between us and other countries, well, maybe there's still a gap that we could fill. But I'm putting out that question today, especially on the back of something I discussed with Dr. Theo Champong yesterday. Now they're talking about supposedly celebrity tax, where influencers on social media, masters of ceremony, like what I do from time to time, apart from the withholding tax, the 7.5% that you would pay on gigs of a certain caliber. But I'm asking, if we were to generalize it, would you be willing to pay more tax if it could translate into better development? But on the other hand, we've seen the number of taxes we are paying already, which practically is translating into, let me put it bluntly, not much. I would have said nothing, but not much. So, what's your take? Would you do it? I had a conversation with a friend yesterday in the United States, and he said, look, even if they want to take 50, 60% of my salary, I'm okay with it. Why? If something is happening to me and I call for an ambulance, within 5 minutes, I'll have an ambulance right here to assist me. I would go to the health facility and get top-notch, treatment from the health facility. I would never get anything close to that in Ghana, and that's why I'm willing to pay my taxes here. What do you think? Share your thoughts with me via our social media stream. Mr. Painter, a very good morning to you, sir. Mr. Painter,
good morning, sir.
Great to have you. What Hello? Is your I can hear you, Mr. Painter. What's your take on taxes vis-a-vis what I said? Hello, Mr. Painter.
Hello. Hi, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Mr. Painter. Can you hear me?
I can hear you very well.
Okay, I was just posing a question to you on taxes. To you and everyone else. Did you get the question?
You said whether we'll be willing to pay more taxes for better services. Is that not so?
Yes, and whether you have hope that if we did, that would actually happen, like we see in other jurisdictions.
I have my readout. The problem with Ghana and with everything that we do has got more to do with management than anything else. We pay all the taxes. The real issue is whether we're getting value for money. In other words, the last time on this show, I told you about how we pay for street lights every time we pay for electricity bill. They take all that money and nobody even tells us where that money goes and what they use it for. And therefore, all our streets are dark. Where I live, street lights are exhibition lights. In other words, you only get them occasionally. And so that's it. That's a classic example. I wouldn't know what else I must be talking about. We pay for everything. We pay for health. We pay for whatever. Meanwhile, the services are as poor as you can imagine. So that's the problem that we have in Ghana. And even every time the tariffs go up, the tariffs have been going up all the time, water, all the utilities. It's not much. The place that I live, for more than 5-6 days, our electricity is half current. It's whatever. We are now used to. It's as if there's a competition between Ghana Water and electricity about who is bad at doing what. That's it. It's a competition. That's the new norm. That's the new contract that we have with them, that they compete to show who is really bad at delivering services. And we are used to it. And nonetheless, they just increase the tariffs within how many weeks or how many months. So that's the recurrent thing that we have in this country. And I personally, I can only pray about it, but I don't honestly believe that things are going to improve merely because we paid more taxes. The little that we pay, they don't show us how effectively they are using it. That's about it. That's my honest view about this subject.
For you, I feel money in the studio. Your take. You've been to other jurisdictions many times. You've seen what happens
Certainly,
there.
yes.
And you've also seen what happens here. Recently, after the rain, was it on Friday? Flooding everywhere.
Even in certain areas like where I live, around Ranta Commandos.
Oh, that place! I have a very.
It is terrible. It is
knowledge
terrible.
of what happens
Yes, it is terrible. So there's a need for both parties of the social contract to fulfill their part of the bargain. Government has a responsibility to tax the citizenry, and the monies so accrued should be used to provide basic necessities of life, like roads and, as my brother said, electricity. Most of the traffic lights are not functioning as we speak this morning. And this is an open invitation to disaster.
True. I mean, go right down the road here. Just when you're making the turn from the traffic light and the Atenka junction, if you like. Those traffic lights have not worked for a while now. Both of them, right before that traffic light and then at the turn. They've not worked. And that's not the only place. Go through some of the major routes in Accra. I think right next to the Holy Spirit Cathedral, those traffic lights have also not been working for a while. Coming from Ridge, if you wanted to negotiate towards Kanda, those traffic lights have not worked. All the way to Accra High and the Swiss Embassy, crossing over, those traffic lights have not worked in a while.
And this is unthinkable. And what does it take for the authority to fix traffic lights? You know, motorists do not need to go through this heritage experience. And meanwhile, we have scores of police personnel visibly on the roadside, and we should at all times know areas whose traffic lights are not working. And the best thing to do, the basic thing to do is to deploy policemen to regulate traffic and to avoid disaster. An ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure.
Right.
So again, a clarion call goes to the authorities. MTTD, please, if the traffic lights are not working, with urgent promptitude, deploy your men to prevent accidents from happening.
Well, that is the charge, whether they will follow it or not. I'm already seeing some responses coming through, which I find interesting. And I'm bringing this up again on the back of, I felt so irked in my spirit. You know, the chief director at the Ministry of Finance at the last Graphic Stanbic business meeting was talking about paying more taxes and COVID-19 and the Russo-Ukrainian war, and we are not paying more taxes, and we should look at other countries. And, you know, look at us. After all we are paying, look at us and where we are. Mikhail says, why pay more when they will just squander it? When you have this kind of thinking, it's because of what people have seen. And when people see that, they'll obviously not be willing. But in other jurisdictions, when over time they have seen that my taxes translate into X, Y, Z, A, B, C, and D for me. And these things will ensure that I have longevity, for example, my life, my quality of life is so high. Why would you not want to pay? But you're giving me what I'm giving. The other day when it rained, I was literally risking my life going through certain places because of the level of flooding. You have water up to your tires. You know, if you're using a saloon car, you're not using a pickup or a four-wheeler. You have it up to your tires and you have to go slowly. Afraid that maybe water could enter your engine and that could result in disaster. You can't get it. I mean, and you expect me to pay more.
It's also true, and the flip side is also true, that many Ghanaians are outside the tax net. So why is making...
A few are being overtaxed.
Yes, why is making effort to rope them in the tax net? It is also important, it is necessary, it is of urgent necessity for the authority to ensure that the payment of tax crystallizes into provision of basic necessities of life.
Well, we pray someday, like the Israelites in the Bible, someday we pray that we'll reach that land flowing with milk and honey. They wandered 40 years in the desert, a journey that some say would have taken actually 40 days, or maybe just a little more than that. Maybe we are on our own wandering in the desert with our misleaders, as I call them. And hopefully someday we'll arrive at Canaan, the promised land.
And the time is now.
The time ought to be now.
Yeah.
It must be now. And that is why people cannot take for granted the demonstrations and the youth. I was just watching, someone was saying he had come from a faraway place for the demonstration a few days ago, and you can't let me come here and you think you can push me around. I came from a faraway place to Accra just to join the demonstration. Just imagine that.
And the message,
traveling from,
the signal is so clear.
So clear.
So clear.
But it appears,
you ignore it at your own peril.
No. Let's get into the papers. The Daily Graphic this morning, economic growth to surpass IMF forecast. That's according to the Bank of Ghana. Okay. Heart diseases, stroke leading causes of death. That's according to a study. Let's take better care of ourselves. Alan's third force agenda, farce or reality? I see you smiling. President urges world leaders to prioritize prevention of NCDs and addiction to betting by youth. Worrying, right, Reverend Mante? I totally agree. Recently, I was doing something and someone proposed a bet, and I said, no, my principles, I don't bet. But you have a lot of young people doing this. What jobs, what opportunities have you created for them? Economic opportunities. Sure. Our constitution gives us certain economic rights. Of course, enforceability, that becomes another issue in courts, while we've had different cases, bordering on that. But you don't provide anything for them. A lot of people, well-educated, are out there with nothing to do. So that's what we call underemployment. Okay, not unemployment, underemployment. So you can have someone who's an architect, an accountant, yet what they are doing is very different from the skill sets because they have to put food on the table.
Sure.
So let's get into the stories. Alan Kyerematen, who has nurtured presidential hopes since 2007, yesterday confirmed his resignation from the MPP and announced a new ambition to vie for the presidency in 2024 as an independent candidate. The former Minister of Trade and Industry said he offered a new hope beyond the duopoly of the MPP and the NDC and promised to establish and lead a new, quote, movement for change in Ghana, and one of inclusivity that he said would make room for the MPP and the NDC and other parties and political organizations should he win the presidential polls. I'm just wondering, though, if you're moving away from the NDC and the MPP, why now want to bring them back into? It's the same elements and the same thinking that you'll be bringing back. Now, while the Fourth Republic is not lacking in political parties of different persuasions, none had come close to usurping the supremacy of the MPP and the NDC. In spite of Mr. Kyerematen's supposed appeal, he appears to have a tall order reaching a height that established parties have struggled to attain. So the question is, can Alan do it? Can he shake up the system? Can he be that third force that we've supposedly been waiting for? Could this be the start of that? Maybe he will not be the sole person, but if this starts, then maybe Ghanaians will think outside of the NDC and the MPP. Is that possible right now? Who knows? Lawyer Painter, what's your thinking on his resignation and going independent?
As for Kyerematen's resignation, this is not the first time he has resigned. I'm sure it raises a lot of issues, but then I would rather comment about his resignation. That this is the second time Kyerematen has resigned from the MPP. We don't know when the third time is going to be. But we have the
what are you intimating? What are you intimating? Are you suggesting he's a perennial runaway, if you like?
Worse than that.
Worse than that?
You're right.
Okay.
It tells more even on the MPP's own type of politics. Let me tell you what. You know, it took President Obama to come to Ghana to come and tell us that Africa needs institutions and not personalities. And talking about institutions, we are talking about principles in place in order to build institutions. Ghana has for a long time been a country of men. It's about personality. It's about who you are. And if you are tolerated, you are allowed to do things not on the basis of principle. And I want this matter to hit very well at the MPP. Because when Martin resigned, a resignation is a resignation. A resignation is a voluntary decision taken by a person who says that I don't want to be a part of this group. That somehow it went through all kinds of circles, and at the end of the day, it turned out that the party then set up or its legal committee came out that the resignation had actually not been accepted. It was a funny decision that a so-called legal team of a major political party would take. And with due respect to whoever took those decisions at that time, it was an unprincipled decision. I'm calling them out. Because a resignation, it was not because it was Martin. You know, the FPP has crafted for instance so-called founding members. And it appears different rules apply to a so-called founding member. Martin, in any case, if you resign from a party and you come back, you go and join the queue. Because you resigned and you came back and ought to join the queue. But somehow they managed to engineer the whole show in such a way that he still became a presidential candidate. Because somebody believed that even if he became a candidate, he would still be beaten in the main elections or in the MPP's own internal elections. That was a funny thing that they did. And that is what has encouraged him this time to stay long enough. And when things are not going smooth for him, he is now claiming to resign a second time. Why are they not going after him this time? Why are they not? You know, that's the way we create. So at the end of the day, we never get principle because a principle is either wholly kept or wholly sacrificed. There is no way that you can begin to make arrangements or do halfway and do halfway. But that is what we have done in this country up to date. So I'm very, very happy that Martin is making it bite. And let it bite the party. And if Martin eventually stands as a presidential candidate and manages to pull any votes, those votes are likely to come from the MPP polls. And we'll see how it affects the party's electoral card.
I'll come back to you briefly on that. Let's veer slowly because we're talking about leadership on the continent, and we have an interesting bit we're introducing. We're going to cross over to Ethiopia, where African leaders have set out a new path for attaining inclusive and sustainable African or economic growth and development for the continent with a long-term 50-year development trajectory. Well, my colleague Mamavi Osuabwaje is actually part of that high-level delegation. She finds herself in Addis Ababa and connects with us live from there. Mamavi, if you can hear me, well, I don't know what it's like currently in Addis Ababa, but give us a rundown of what is happening there.
All right, so Ben, good morning to you.
Good morning.
You're right. You know, back in May 2013, the AU set the Agenda 2063. It's been 10 years of that. So what's happening today, and it's a one-day evaluation meeting. What's happening is an evaluation of what the AU set as its 10-year part of the implementation plan for the first 10 years. The whole focus, even though the meeting is going to be talking about the 7 aspirations that the AU set for itself, the focus more would be on democratic governance, peace and security, continental integration, economic development, along those lines. With regards good governance, some people would say that we've made a bit of progress because in the past you'd find that leaders have stayed in power for a really, really long time. Somehow we've managed in some of the situations to get them out. But what we haven't succeeded in doing is linking good governance, I guess, to development, which for ordinary people, that's what we're looking at. So this meeting basically, which has been put together by the All Africa Conference of Churches, the Konrad Adenauer, the African Union, and ECOSOC, which is a body within the African Union, is to look at the entire goal, but zoom in particularly on the parts of good governance and security, and then measure the successes, look at the challenges, and then look at the way forward. It's interesting that in Ghana, the conversation has suddenly just changed to Alan going independence. But if you look at it in terms of good governance, that ultimately, if you look at the reason why he's going independence, you can say ultimately is for the purposes of good governance and Ghanaians essentially experiencing development. That's why every leader wants to be, at least they tell us they want to be president, except that when they get into power, the conversation changes. So Ben, that's why I am in Addis Ababa this morning. The meeting just got underway. The first panel conversation is ongoing now. So throughout the day, I'll be bringing updates in terms of what has been reached, and I'll be also interviewing some of the panelists because we have some high-level members of the African Union, ECOSOC, and some CSOs all gathered here this morning.
Well, that's an interesting, discussion, definitely, that you're going to be having there. And I'm hoping that we're going to be getting all the scoop from you live from Addis Ababa. Mama Vio Usu-Abwaji, thank you. That is my colleague Mama Vio Usu-Abwaji, all the way from Ethiopia, bringing us the scoop there on that trajectory as far as the African continent and the AU are concerned. So coming to you in the studio, Afelmoni, interesting development there in Addis Ababa.
Certainly, yes.
There are a lot of people who even question, the AU and its relevance, capacity, like you keep mentioning. So what is happening here with this third force, supposedly proposed by Allen, also feeds into that kind of conversation because it impacts the economy. Your take?
We expect the AU to take a hard look at the downward democratic spiral in Africa, especially West Africa. They should take into consideration the causal factors of the democratic backsliding in our parts of the world. We have leaders who believe in sit-tight mentality.
What mentality?
Sit tight.
They will let's stay put.
Yes. They will change their constitutions, elongate their tenure in office, invite dissensions, upheavals, and the end product is coup d'etat. And AU, strangely, will turn a blind eye to this development. And what do you expect? So it came as a huge act of hypocrisy, duplicity on the part of AU and ECOWAS to attempt to force Niger, Mali, and others to go back to democratic rule. Meanwhile, they turn a blind eye to what is happening in Cote d'Ivoire. Alassane Ouattara changed the constitution, served 2 terms, and is now serving 3 terms. And Alassane Ouattara had the moral authority to back the invasion of Niger by ECOWAS troops. Nothing has fizzled out. They were given 1 week. The other day, Tinubu extended the 1 week to 3 months.
Yeah.
And it's another part of joke. So the time has come for the AU to take a long and hard look to prevent what is happening.
But coming from the AU down to Ghana, because some of the very things other countries are going through, we are also facing.
Certainly,
right here in this country. What do you make of Allen's third force agenda? Farce or reality?
We need to understand where it's coming from. He is a very astute politician, a major force politically, who sees his own party as an impedimental force, impedimental block to his presidential ambition. The lawyer referred to his resignation in 2008. And according to Allah, what prompted him to resign again compelled him to quit his own MPP party. He said that Bishop Richard Galley once said that it's only a fool who doesn't change his mind. And he came back and he thought things would improve, and they didn't. But students of leadership will always refer to 4 requirements every leader needs. Number 1, you need intelligence quotient.
Right.
You also need emotional quotient.
Intelligence, yeah.
You also need social quotient, the way you relate with people.
True.
And then the fourth one, adversity quotient. The first three, Alan has them in abundance, and even super abundance. He's intelligent, he has a face, he has a voice, he has the looks of a president. But he's a presidential material, and I would dare say that he will be consigned to history as one of the best presidents Ghana will never have, or Ghana didn't have.
You think so?
Yeah.
You feel he'll never become president?
Sure. Because
you feel Alan Kyerematen will never become president?
Not his presidential dream was aborted on the very day he was annihilated at the Super Delegates Conference.
Wow.
Yeah. That was it. And so Alan is facing reality. No. The NPP machine cannot lead him to the promised land as a president.
So he must go his own way.
So he must go his own way. But at the same time, we also need to theater this cataclysmic decision to go independent.
I mean, it's either going to shake our entire political system if he even gets 10% of votes, for example. Because that would be, like you said, borrowing your word, cataclysmic, either for the NDC or the MPP. But people feel more on the side of the MPP.
Yeah, certainly yes.
To him. But on the other hand, it probably is, if you've listened to commentary, following his announcement yesterday, it probably is a one-way ticket from the MPP. That this must be it, right?
Sure. So, as I said, he needs, I believe he's done so, to filter his move into the tight weave of reality. And the reality is that even though he's going independent, he can attract votes, especially from the MPP fold. But the reality is that he's driving a defective or ineffective machine, which cannot lead him to the presidency.
You agree with those who say that going independent against these two juggernauts, the NDC and the MPP, I mean, you simply can't win. You simply cannot
win.
Can Alan pull a surprise?
It is not within the bounds of reality to pull a surprise. He can,
and the surprise wouldn't be the surprise wouldn't be necessarily winning the election.
Certainly, yes.
But you feel he can be a spoiler.
He can be a spoiler. He can be a spoiler because yesterday I was monitoring your station, and soon after the announcement, that seismic announcement, you did a fantastic job by going to Kumasi to talk to ordinary people.
Yeah, I listened.
Yes, and you could see that his message is resonating.
With some of them.
And if you multiply the numbers you spoke to, you can imagine the number of votes he will chip off.
So Dr. Bawumia, should he or Kennedy Ejapong, should they become flag bearers or flag bearer of the MPP, they are going to be on the receiving end. They are going to be the losers of this move.
So Alan is aware of the damage he can inflict.
And you think he's doing this intentionally, right? If the party has rejected me, then he will also feel my wrath.
Yeah, he's done his calculations. As an MPP, our own party is now an impedimental block to my presidency. And he cited the factors. Monetization, intimidation, and all that. And in politics, you need, number one, mobilization. Politics is about mobilization and organization. And in a part of the world, now, monetization has come to be overshadowed two main factors of mobilization and organization.
Right.
And Kwapong said organization decides everything. But in the present world, monetization and organization will decide.
Well, we'll see how that pans out. 2024 is just around the corner. Two quick stories and then you can come in with your papers. Economic growth to surpass surpass IMF forecast. That's according to the Bank of Ghana. And Ghana's economy is bound to grow twice higher than the 1.5% projected by the IMF at the end of the year, the Bank of Ghana has projected. The central bank based its projection on the strong economic growth measured by the gross domestic product growth for the first and second quarters and positive outlook indications given by the Bank of Ghana's composite index of economic activities. Under the country's $3 billion program with the IMF, economic growth for 2023 is projected to be 1.5%. Of course, if we keep spending the way we are and adding to our public debts the way we are, 6.3 billion in 2 months, then I don't know. But let's see how those projections pan out. Heart disease and stroke leading causes of death. The leading causes of death in the country now, if you didn't know, are heart diseases and strokes. The acting director of the National Cardiothoracic Center, Professor Mark Mauto-Tete, has disclosed. Quoting a research conducted by a trainee of the center, Mr. Tete said, high cholesterol, that is fat, so in the blood, known as dyslipidemia, stood out as the worst cause of heart attacks. I'll come to you, Kwapong. So much of a concern, right? Especially looking at our health system. Quick thoughts?
I mean, it's not enough to know what is killing us, but it's better to know what to do to avoid what is killing us. So these researchers, when they do it, we welcome them. But then it should come with a pack of advice as to what lifestyle changes that people like you and I should be doing. Because essentially, this is no longer a middle class thing. Now we are getting very poor people getting what originally was known as rich people's diseases and stuff. Because then, I mean, people like you and I, you are still at the studio. I don't know when was the last time I went on a jog and so forth and so on.
Interestingly, I do that a lot.
I congratulate you. Encourage me to join you.
But I think the bottom line, you say the things we may not be doing. I think the first bit, medical checkups.
You're right.
That is the first bit, because any of these, when they are developing, I mean, it's just over a year since I went for my last test. This year, I have been a bit recalcitrant, but I'll get it done. You have to go for those tests. You check your lipids. Me, I check my kidneys, my prostate, my heart health. Basically, a full medical check. They'll check you out. Urine samples, blood samples, check what is going on in there. But most people don't do that, even in a 5-year period. No check. You could be walking someday and then you fall, and that's it.
Let me tell you an interesting story. Every year, the Ghana Bar Association, we hold our annual conference, and at the conference, we invite these doctors who come and do a medical clinic, and they take all the tests, they do a presentation and pronounce all of us dead people. Until they pronounce all of us as dead men walking.
Wow.
And strangely enough, we congregate the next year. This year, I'm sorry, I'm not making a comment about a particular person, but a gentleman attended the opening ceremony. The next day, he was dead. He wasn't sick.
Wow.
One lawyer attended the opening ceremony, said he wasn't feeling well, he wanted to go and come back, and the next day was dead, and it was all over our social media platforms, and everybody was asked what happened. But that's been the trend. Lawyers have been dying, and they never fell sick. So that's the danger of the kind of things. So the new researches, that's what is revealing. And I mean, like I said, thank you for telling us this medical checkup. Have you told anybody how much it costs you to do the kind of things? Because the last time I tried the University of Ghana Medical Center, master, you have to be a lawyer, you have to be an accountant, you have to be a professional to be able to afford the cost of it. But we talk about the ordinary folks. We talk about the people who are walking around Makola and all of those kind of things. How do they? That's a part of the problem that we have. Because now our medical facilities have become, facilities for the rich people. Yeah. And I'm being honest with you, even though University of Ghana Medical Center, they're doing really good job, master, you need to really have your pocket properly charged with cash in order to be able to use the facilities there. So that's what we have done in this country. Even in our medical services, when we're growing up, Mankesum to Sopon, you can take free transport, you go to the hospitals, free medical care, Today with insurance, they don't even want to see your medical insurance list, whatever they call it, mental health.
So that is all that you're saying because of time. All that you're saying is very true. Very true. And I think that is a major impediment. That is part of why some people simply wouldn't go, because they are thinking of the money they will spend. But on the other hand, you see, you can't value your health in monetary terms. Your health goes beyond money. I mean, you see people in hospital and the agony. If they could pay for health, they would, but they can't. So that's the end game. So some way, somehow, even if it's the basic tests, just to know what is happening within your body, we must all try. I'm putting it out there because I do. And I've said before in this country that, look, I don't spare myself any little that I can spend on my multivitamins, on trying to stay healthy. I do my hike. I don't want to mention where for security reasons. I do my weekly walk. I have a mini gym that I use. I try because I said yesterday, you don't want to fall sick in this country. That's one. Health institutions, especially the public ones.
And the cost so prohibitive.
Exactly. So you want to manage yourself and conduct these tests as much as you can. Else, it could be disastrous.
And we need to deepen the culture of physical exercise. Very, very important.
Let's quickly get into the headlines from the papers you have, and we'll
Ghana Times, as usual, is leading with Alan Kachi resigns, and
we've deliberated
on that. And then Interior Minister tasks journalists to avoid hate speech.
Okay.
And the Bible, which is a perennial spring of wisdom and an infallible guide of conduct, reminds us that death and life are in the power of the tongue.
True.
Yeah, and you can relate it to what happened in Rwanda, even though it has been overflogged, but it's still relevant. Where it took a reckless journalist who went on a reckless station to make a reckless pronouncement, and that's resulted in the distraction of precious lives running into close to 1 million human lives. So, as journalists, we have a responsibility imposed by the duty of our profession to sieve hate speech from what special politicians make. And this underlines the need for proper gatekeeping.
Okay.
We are gatekeepers. You know, as for reckless comments, they will fly left, right, and center. But it is our responsibility to ensure that we do not feed
those
our listening public with so reckless pronouncement.
Maybe just the headlines from your next paper.
Protect that's the Finder. MPP urges calm following Alan's resignation, and we hear that at 2:00 MPP will respond. But our caution is that they should not fight fire with fire.
True.
They should make it possible for Alan to come back for the two sides to sit down and negotiate his return, if possible.
Well, let's see how that pans out. Unfortunately, the time is not on our side. Just to leave you with this headline from the Economy Times: public debt now stands at 575.5 billion Ghana cedis. Mr. Painter, I'll just give you some 30 seconds as we cap off the conversation. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, I think we can. I'm talking about our economy. About 5 or 4 years ago, Ghana's economy was the highest growing economy in the world. We managed to reach that distance. Don't understand, or I can't even tell why we cannot reach that status again.
Okay.
So I believe I've got a lot of hope. I mean, doom sparrow.
Doom sparrow, right.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Kweku Painter is a lawyer. He joined the conversation. We also had joining us from right here in the studio, former president of the GJA, Afeo Money. Thank you so much for the conversation this morning and the insightful thoughts on Alan Kyerematen. Anyway, so as we wrap, right before we get into sports, Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, they are offering free prostate screening for men, free female fertility screening for women. Locate them in Accra Spintex opposite the Shell signboard, Kumasi, Kronoma behind the Angel Educational Complex, Takrade Anaji State Tema Community 22, Techiman Hanso and Esiaman Zama. Their call lines 0244-867-068 or 0274-234-321. Endpoint Homeopathic Clinic, the end to chronic disease. Sports is up next.
Good morning. Let's do sports now on the AM show with me, Muftawo Nabila Abdullahi. On Monday, former Trade Minister Alan John Chimantin broke away from the MPP to run as an independent candidate in next year's presidential and parliamentary elections. And he's been speaking about his vision for sports in the country if Ghanaians gives him the mandate to steer affairs of the country. He says he will focus on infrastructure and also the setting up of academies that will help the development of sports in Ghana.
Investing in world-class new generation sports facilities in selected competitive sporting disciplines. In this regard, my government would encourage the participation of the private sector in the development of sports infrastructure around the country, including sports academies.
A brief message that he sent to the sports community in Ghana. Now let's talk about the Black Queens, and they will later today come up against Rwanda in the second leg of their qualifiers for the 2024 African Women's Cup of Nations. The first leg, which happened last week in Rwanda, saw the Black Queens win by 7-0, and they are seeking to wrap up that tie later today at the Accra Sports Stadium. We hear from head coach of the team, Nora Hoptel, who's been speaking about the hunger of her girls to see off this tie and book a ticket to the next AFCON.
Of course, you're right that we are here with 23 players. The regulations in the AFCON are that we only can announce 18 for the game tomorrow. So we always look a bit for the rotation. In the end, it's always the next game which counts. So we take it very serious tomorrow. And it's all the time a bit question which players are in competition shape, which are in fatigue. Maybe there are little injuries. So this is a bit the question from the load side, and then on the other hand we have a game plan which we slightly adapt, and of course also there we look then for players and position which work in function to our game plan. So probably there will be a little surprise tomorrow. Until today all the 23 players are fit and ready to go. We need to hold with their horses, so they are really waiting to perform tomorrow. Normally they also get in the final decision tomorrow in the pre-match meeting who is announced to be in the 18 squad. They don't know it yet, so we also take a bit impression of the last training, and then we take the final decision. First, of course, you need to congratulate the players. They, in the end, are on the pitch and take their right decisions. We have a big staff which we work very professional behind in the analysis, in the game planning, a lot of individual talks, also video analysis. So there's a lot of work, and this is in the end the secret. Yes, we are proud that we scored so many goals, but even more proud to have a blank sheet behind. We also invest a lot in the defense, and I think until now, the game plan gripped, but also the players really transmitted it well on the pitch.
On Monday, the Ghana Premier League match day 2 continued at the Soccer Copper Stadium, where Accra Lions, they won their game against Legon Cities to move to the top of the Premier League table. Let's do boxing now. And Ghana went to Senegal to participate in the qualifiers for the Paris Olympic 2024 qualifiers. Unfortunately, all 12 boxers who were sent to the competition failed to secure qualification to the Olympic Games. Head coach of the team, Ofura Sare, says that poor preparations exposed the deficiencies of his team.
We have talent, we have the level, but there are other things that support, like what Jojo talked about, the officiating, officials, the way we were handled most of the times. I think I've been singing this song for a long time, and I always use this word that we've been squeezing stone to get water. So most of the times when we get results, it's not just that we brought the results, so that is it. It is because we struggle through a whole lot of things and play some kind of magic, and then before you see we had results. So it has been like sometimes we are lucky, but now this competition we didn't get that kind of luck that we were depending on, and in terms of preparation, most of the countries are well prepared than us in terms of what they did before coming to the competition. Some of them went to Russia, some of them went to Cuba, some of them they exposed their boxers to some people, and also they play a role in the officialdom. You see that when we were in the competition, there are some information given to some of the coaches which we don't have, because when we went to the World Championship, the method of judging was different from this Dakar qualification. At the World Championship, there's a mechanism of 2 officiating officials who always stand by, and they when in terms of a close fight or a fight that is more closer, they put in their judgment, and that one will make a difference at the end of the tournament. But this competition, that 2 judges that control that judgment, they are not there. That mechanism is not there. So it means whatever happened. There's nothing of correction of judges, other judges coming to cover the protest aspect of the whole sport. And because of that, we go in there, they box some of our boxers. When you look, you watch them, the way they box, and some of the scorings that weren't given to them. They didn't accredit some of their scoring to them, and they will take a mass from all that you perform, and then it look like you did 0. But seriously, some of our boxers could have qualified, even though it was 1 slot. We could have at least qualified 1 if this kind of things didn't happen.
Meanwhile, Samuel Techi, the boxer who won a bronze medal for Ghana in the last Olympic Games in boxing, he had pulled out of these qualifiers, saying that the president of the country, Nana Akufo-Addo, owed him some money, and that if that money wasn't paid, he was never going to represent the country again. He has rescinded that decision, and he started training with the Black Bombers. There are 2 more qualifiers to go, one in Thailand and another one in Italy, and Ghanaian boxers could still qualify to the Olympic Games in Paris 2024. And these qualifiers will be happening in March and May next year. Now, let's do some other stories and talk about sporting infrastructure, but this time around, it's about naming facilities after people that have contributed to the development of communities in Ghana. And the Member of Parliament for Bantama, Asenso Boakye, has named the new AstroTurf in Bantama after his predecessor, Daniel Ochima-Boakye, who died just a couple of weeks ago. And he says that Daniel's contribution to the area of Bantama cannot be compared to any other thing, and it is important that his legacy continues. There's more in the following report.
It was a highly competitive contest in the Bantama NPP parliamentary primary in 2020 between Francis Asenso Boakye and Daniel Ochima-Boakye. The then incumbent MP, Ochim-Aboagye, lost the seat to Asenso Boakye. Notwithstanding, the cordial relationship forged in their formative years continued, according to Francis Asenso Boakye, who spoke to Joy News a few hours after the death of his predecessor on Saturday.
I remember he drove about 4 hours from Chicago to East Lansing, Michigan, to attend my graduation. So we have been very good friends since, and even though we were in the contest, we still remain very good friends up to now. He was a very hardworking man, very brilliant. His work in Parliament, especially on the floor of Parliament as a great debater, is something that everybody will attest to. This sad news is indeed a very big blow to us.
A day after, the Bantama MP commissioned a new Ghana Gas-funded AstroTurf in the area fitted with floodlights and other facilities to ensure football is enjoyed at any time. The MP chose to honor his predecessor, Daniel Ochem Abuaje, by naming the facility after him.
The commission decided on the unfortunate demise of our respected former member of parliament, who happens to be a very good friend of mine. And given the service to this constituency in Ghana as a whole, we thought it would be proper and appropriate to name it after.
A total of 151 astroturfs have so far been constructed under the present NPP government. Minister for Youth and Sports, Mustafa Yusuf, explains the importance of such facilities.
I want to come to support the government because before this assumption of office in 2017, we have not been astroturf in the entire country. As we speak, we have 151. They have just commissioned 151. Next week, I will commission 150. That was 150. So we have done so much for community sports facilities.
Meanwhile, contractors of the facility, Wembley Sports Complex, explained standard practices were deployed for the project.
So it is a concept that we are pushing to ensure that every constituency in the country at least will have one astroturf to begin with, fitted with floodlights, so that in the night they can also play football. One significant thing about this astroturf has to do with the fact that it is also multi-purpose. You can use it for funerals, parties, weddings, concerts, and other.
For Joy News, Nanaya Ojima reporting.
Fellow countrymen and women, I joined the new Patriotic Party at the very beginning of its establishment as a founding member, believing in its core values and the long-standing traditions of its antecedents, predicated on the principles of fairness, equity, probity, accountability, and transparency. I have devoted the best part of my professional career to serving the party, and I still believe in the vision of the founding fathers of the party. However, the NPP, as it exists now, has very little resemblance to the party that I joined in 1992 and helped develop. Thank you. The party has been hijacked by a selected group of party leaders and elders, government appointees, behind the curtain power brokers and some unscrupulous party apparatchiks. The concept of an independent candidate becoming the President of the Republic of Ghana, though novel, will be the most innovative and revolutionary development in Ghana's political history. It will indeed be a watershed development in Ghana. Although similar examples of this model have been practiced successfully in countries such as Benin in Africa and other political jurisdictions. In a country like Ghana, that is currently embroiled in divisive political turmoil, an independent candidate who becomes president will be a bipartisan and honest broker amongst different political parties and will bring healing and reconciliation to our body politic. Ministers and other key government officials will be appointed from all parties and shall also include and shall also include individuals who are apolitical but have a demonstrable and proven track record of performance in their field of specialization. Fellow countrymen and women, what Ghana needs now is a new leader and not a new political party. The four dominant themes for this change agenda will be pursued, which will be pursued by the movement, are as follows. 1. Change the political status quo by moving Ghana beyond the duopoly of the two main political parties, the new Patriotic Party and the National Democratic Congress. This will break divisive partisanship in governance in Ghana. 2. Promote the establishment of a government of national unity, which would include people from all walks of life, irrespective of their political, religious, ethnic affiliations. Rich or poor, able-bodied or physically challenged, young or old, women and men. This will allow for effective and inclusive participatory governance. The movement will lead the formation of a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Number 3, build consensus on a national development agenda, which will introduce a new paradigm shift that moves Ghana from growth and stability to economic transformation. This paradigm shift will be driven by my Great Transformational Plan, GTP, for Ghana, which puts the private sector and the business community at the center of our national development efforts. 4, inspire behavioral and attitudinal change in the people of Ghana. On the 26th of August this year, I participated in the Super Delegates Conference to shortlist the 10 aspirants who had filed their nominations to contest in the primaries. I was selected as one of the 5 candidates to contest for the main presidential primaries scheduled for the 4th of November 2023. Fellow countrymen and women, after carefully analyzing the results of the Superdelegates Conference, I issued a press statement on the 6th of September this year, declaring my intention to exit the process leading to the presidential primaries. In the run-up to the Superdelegates Conference, the National Council of the party made some of the most controversial and contentious decisions in the history of our party. They rejected a petition signed by 9 out of the 10 aspirants requesting for the Superdelegates Conference to be held in one location, as well as to allow each delegate at the conference to nominate 5 persons instead of 1, in line with the provisions of our party's constitution. In my humble and considered opinion, the decisions of the National Council were both unmeritorious and unconstitutional. To make matters worse, it was absolutely clear, as I indicated in my press statement of 6th of September this year, that the Superdelegates Conference was strategically and tactically skewed and maneuvered in favor of one particular aspect. The level of intimidation and monetization that characterized the conference is unprecedented in the history of internal elections of our party. After carefully analyzing the results of the Superdelegates Conference, I issued a press statement on the 6th of September this year, declaring my intention to exit the process leading to the presidential primaries. In the run-up to the Superdelegates Conference, the National Council of the party made some of the most controversial and contentious decisions in the history of our party. They rejected a petition signed by 9 out of the 10 aspirants requesting for the Superdelegates Conference to be held in one location, as well as to allow each delegate at the conference to nominate 5 persons instead of 1, in line with the provisions of our party's constitution.
Well, here we are on the first belt of our big stories, and we're focusing on Alan Kyerematen and this new movement. He is saying we need a new leader, not a new political party. But with what he's doing, is that not the semblance of a new political party, so to speak, since he's going independent? But that's a caucus he's creating there. Well, I don't know whether Alan Kyerematen has not been meeting up with Davido or jamming to his song Unavailable, because he's basically saying, I'm unavailable. Them know they see me, so they don't see him, so he's unavailable and he's moving away. He's going to do his own thing. What do you make of it? There are some who have said this is outright political suicide, second time, and that it's a one-way ticket away from the NPP. But others have also said, with the way things are shaping up in the party, this was his only option. There are some who have said that they are blue-blooded members of the NPP, but they are not in support of what is going on in the party, and that they would side with Alan Kyerematen. How will the cookie crumble in 2024? Only time will tell. But we have our guests to help us assess the situation. Joining me in the studio, we have Dr. John Osai Kwapong. He joins me in the studio. Thank you so much for your time. And then we have Haruna Mohammed, Deputy General Secretary of the NPP. Mr. Mohammed, a very good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, sir.
It's good to have you join the conversation this morning. So, for those of us who are students of politics, who have been through all the political literature, and you look at the NPP coming to this crucial election, you want to break the 8, and yet you have so many problems. Let's take away the economy and the GDP and inflation. Let's even set all of that aside. It appears your party is fragmenting to bits right ahead of this crucial election. You've not even selected a candidate yet. How did the NPP receive yesterday Alan's resignation and this new movement that he's put together?
Thank you very much.
I'd appreciate it if you could speak up just a little bit.
Okay. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Yesterday, the General Secretary of the New Patriotic Party, that is my boss, issued a statement to the press. And he indicated in the statement that it is very unfortunate that this decision of Mr. Alan is here at this particular time. And the party would be having a press conference on a discussion that will be centered on the issues that are raised by Mr. Alan, that we have said that he has been a long-standing member of the New Patriotic Party. For him to decide to forfeit his membership through a press address at this point in time is something that is very worrisome, and the party received this with very sad input, and it's very unfortunate. All matters that have been raised by him will be addressed by the General Secretary at 2 p.m. at the party's headquarters. And I think that this is the fact that it is very clear that this is the time the party is going through a lot of resilience that the party's strength will further be tested. This is something that has happened to every political party in the world. And specifically in Ghana, there is no political party that has not tested what is happening. And I think that once we live in a democracy, Mr. Alan is entitled to his decision. Once we respect his decision, the party will take our stand on this particular matter at 2 p.m. So the MPP is a united party. We are united by the diversity of ideas and the strength of purpose. And we will still forge ahead without any stumbling block on our way in breaking the eight. That is why we have called on the rank and file of the party to stay calm, and nobody should attack Alan as a person because we still respect him, and the party will strive on the strength of democracy.
You called it an unfortunate decision, and like you said, you want the party to remain calm. But that is not what we saw on social media. There was so many tantrums were thrown on social media as far as this resignation is concerned, and an independent candidacy in 2024. You spoke about breaking the eight, but here is Alan, who feels you've not been fair to him. We recall the president, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, saying that "Mefresua Alan Neba," and it appears that is not what is happening. Alan feels aggrieved. He feels the party has not been fair to him. And some stalwarts of your party have corroborated that. They have said, indeed, he's not been treated fairly. My question to you, why has the MPP not been fair to Alan Kwadwo Twebating? He talks about intimidation, monetization of the game, basically setting him aside. And we saw that through the voting at the Superdelegates Congress. What do you make of that?
It's very unfortunate. Like I said, the General Secretary will be addressing all these issues. Matters that he has raised in his first letter to the press and subsequently a letter to the party was being addressed. I had the opportunity to speak to most of those issues referring to the party's constitution. I am very happy that you have indicated that we did an election, but we did not do a selection. So an election on 26th of August went ahead to further indicate the position of the new Patriotic Party on the democracy that we all look out for. Remember, the new Patriotic Party is a conservative party. It is not a socialist party, whereby there is that point that when this person is doing, this person can, where you just pick anybody at all. So I would not be able to understand when you made a statement that the current president said that Mr. Alan Neba. I don't think that this was said at a conference, or this was said by National Council, or this was said. We as NPP. But
you do admit that the president suggested that. You do admit.
I have not heard him. I heard you say, and that is why I'm rephrasing what you said.
You say you've not heard Mr. President say that before in the past?
I did not hear that. I just heard you say.
I see.
And I'm just making reference to the point that the NPP is a conservative party. It's not a socialist party. And we still stand on the values of the new Patriotic Party. And at 2 p.m., the General Secretary will lay to bear the facts. And we would move ahead to feed the media on the right information to use for this particular decision that has been taken by a former leading member of our party.
At least from what we know now, he is going to pour sand in your gari, so to speak, as far as the MPP. If you look at the crowd that embraced him yesterday at the Movenpick Hotel, those who thronged the place, the commentary we've seen, some members of your party who already are beginning to show face, so to speak, for Alan Twebating. Yesterday I heard, is it SK Boafo, one of your party stalwarts, I'll just have to recollect his name, who basically was throwing his support behind Alan Kyerematen. And your party is somewhat categorical on that. Basically, once they do something like that, it means they've also removed themselves, resigned from your party. In the end, if I may just land, in the end, the thinking is that Alan is going to whittle away votes from whoever wins the flag bearership, the race in the MPP. Is that something the MPP is ready for?
It is early days yet. There is more time to election 2024, and you may see that the MPP will be a surprise. Who knows what will happen? Let's wait and listen to the General Secretary. The MPP has gone through a number of times, several of them, and we have come out victorious. We are not going to undermine Mr. Alan Kyerematen or any other person that feels the same way that he feels. This party is a united party, and we believe that we will come out with a great message, and that will bring everybody on board for us to forge ahead for victory 2024.
If it were a splinter group in the NDC, I'm sure you'd be quick to say that it would impact that party. You seem to be running away from the fact that, Alan is a juggernaut, I should say, in your party, and he's moving away. He placed number 3 in the superdelegates conference. If he runs away, if he moves away with some votes. Is that not a palpable reality that we can all grasp?
I like your line of questioning, but I wish I would have gone ahead to have a plain discussion on this matter. But once I work directly under the General Secretary, I will give your platform a very good respect by making sure and repositioning myself that I would wait until the General Secretary makes a statement, and I will give you the full facts and what is contained in the party's constitution and the plans of the new Patriotic Party.
All right. Just hold for me. There's just a little bit I want to run by you. So just hold for me briefly. Let me bring in Kobi Mensah, Professor Kobi Mensah, who also joins the conversation. Prof, a very good morning to you.
Good morning. How are you?
I am well. It's been a while since we had, a bit of a chit-chat. You've been too busy.
Very, very busy, Ben. And
anyway.
I hope that you have been busy as well.
Right. He, of course, is with the University of Ghana Business School. You are a political marketer as well, right?
Absolutely.
Awesome. How would you place this second resignation of Alan Kyerematen? This is not the first time he has, stepped away from the fray. But this time, it appears to come at a very consequential moment. The MPP is hoping to break the 8. Things are not going well for the party. There are factions, so to speak, within the party, and now he's saying he's going independent. What does all of this mean for the MPP?
Right, thank you. Immediately, I can say that for the MPP, if there was any belief that they could break the 8, I think this really nails it that it's not going to be possible. Why? Because
you're saying that just because Alan is going independent, if he follows through, the MPP cannot, by any stretch of imagination, win election 2024.
Absolutely. They were even going to struggle if they had even, voted Alan, for example. But suddenly, once Alan was out of the race, they were not. I had always said that if you look at certain theories, suddenly Bawumia is not the kind of person that they could break the 8 with. People are, unfortunately, very, disenchanted by his leadership. Of course, somebody would argue that it's actually, the president, Nanado. But Bawumia was the, poster boy, as we would say, for most of the government flagship, especially from the economic perspective, and he has disappointed big time. Now, with that in place, you would think that they would have perhaps Alan to actually headline their political party if they believe that they could break the 8. Now, immediately Alan pulled out of the MPP. any shred of belief, I think, is gone completely. Why am I saying that? As I said, he perhaps had a certain, aura around him. He could perhaps push the argument that he had a new vision. Of course, somebody would say that he has served the government, but he was not in a pole position as Bawumia was. And so for him to pull out, I certainly believe that he's going to whittle away kind of some votes in Ashanti region, particularly where he has a very strong following, but across the country, because he had run as a candidate, as a flag bearer candidate for a period of time. As a result, he's actually mobilized people. He has a certain following. And then, of course, the people who perhaps would be floaters or would be independent voters might think that perhaps a third candidate, along the lines of MPP, NDC, and of course even CPP and PNC could be, an attractive choice to make. So I think that if there is any iota of belief that MPP can break the 8, this is certainly not, the news that they want to hear.
In other words, this puts the nail in the coffin of breaking
Absolutely.
the 8.
Absolutely, it does, completely.
As a political marketer, is there any way the elephant can overcome the butterfly? Maybe Alan has chosen the butterfly because of floating voters, maybe to attract them. You know how a butterfly, moves every now and then from flower to flower. But is there any way the NPP could still make some ground and overtake Alan Kyerematen in terms of any votes that he may claw away? Let's look at it. If Alan even gets 5% or 10% of the national votes, what would that mean for the NPP?
As I said earlier, it definitely would be hurting NPP. When you talk about any way that they could actually get Alan, of course, coalition is possible in elections or in electoral systems. They can go into coalition with him. But I don't think that, that side of coalition is the most viable one for Alan. I don't think that, he or NPP rather stands in a better position to be in coalition. I think if there is anything at all, it could be NDC or the other political parties, as in CPP, PNC. They can be in coalition with Alan, not the NPP, not the other way around, because the grounds based on which he left are grounds that I don't think that he would be convinced, to go back. There's so much mistrust between him and the structures of the NPP. So it'd be very, very difficult to think that he would go back for a coalition. And by the way, if he does that, it would not speak so much well for his personality or his character, because it is the same party that you have actually pulled out. Why do you then team up as a coalition, with I think it's very difficult to justify that. So if there's any other, a partnership, it could be with the other political parties as opposed to with NDC.
And Prof, I was just about to get to that because of how emphatic you were about the fact that the MPP couldn't win in 2024. Because if and that's why I brought in the case of about 10%. You know our politics. It's always said that the NDC and the MPP would have a base of about 40% apiece and then fight for the 20% in the middle. Maybe in election 2024, because of how unpopular the MPP has become, the numbers may be slightly changed. But if an Alan Kyerematen, just bear me out. If an Alan Kyerematen were to get anything between 7% to about 15%, okay, that could bring to bear some sort of runoff. In which instance, he would now become the kingmaker, so to speak, and he could side with whichever end, whether to group with the Nkrumah's parties, the CPP, the PPP, and others, or to go back and support the NPP, lend his support for whatever the gains or the boons may be. It's a reality.
Well, firstly, I don't actually support the theory that the parties control 40% as a staple.
I just said that as a not necessarily concrete.
It's not you saying it. I mean, it's an argument that even the political parties put forward. It is not a staple. It is such that people move, in between these political parties. The reason I'm saying that they themselves do not have membership records for us to be able to tell that they have a standing 1 million people in their books. The political parties do not have, apart from their staunch, members who actually go for meetings, etc., the activists, etc. The political parties, I don't think, have really a certain document that says that you have a standing 1 million people in your books. As a result, use it for calculation to say you're about 40% of the vote. I think that for every 8 years, people actually circulate between, they move between these two political parties depending on the level of disappointment. And surely we have been disappointed every 8 years. Perhaps 4 years, we are okay with that. We want to give them chance. And then at 8 years, we're tired, and then we'll move across. So that is what has been happening. I think that you're right to say that if Alan actually claws a certain percentage of vote, he could actually send the election into runoff, which is possibility. I have actually argued that NDC shouldn't be too happy in the meantime, because they have to really do the analysis. Look, people who had, I said that people who hadn't actually, who are not party voters, for example, who are independent or floating voters, we have all experienced NDC government, we have experienced MPP government, so we know what it means, all right? Of course, in campaigning, they will tell us fresh things, so that could actually be the mediator or the moderator in it, in terms of how we perceive them, all right? But imagine that somebody who had tasted these two governments and Alan Chamante now drops it. Such a person can be in a dilemma, thinking, should I still vote NPP or NDC? Or I should give my vote to Alan Chamante? And of course, the other political parties, I don't want to say smaller parties, but the CPP, PNC, usually would have their core basis voting for them, all right? The floaters perhaps might think that I need to send these parties a certain signal and then vote Alan Chamante. So it is difficult for the two parties, very difficult for MPP, but for NDC, it is tricky for them as well. I think that they need to analyze the scenarios very well to be very certain how the strategy would be. Otherwise, it is not the only, the MPP is the only party that Alan Chamante could put, the sun in their gari. It could also affect NDC as well.
So he could imperil both the NDC and the MPP, and both of them have to be cautious. But let me ask you this.
Depending on the campaign even.
Is Alan different in any way? I mean, can he sell himself as anything other than a discontent, grumbling stalwart of the MPP? Some have said that Dr. Bawumia, what is he bringing differently? He's with the administration. He's been there through these 8 years, 7+ years. There's nothing new. Same can be said of Alan. What do you think?
Look, if you look at the voter population, quite a lot of them who perhaps never or haven't felt a certain, performance of Alan. Of course, he was prominent in MPP first. What I mean by MPP first is that 2000 election for the first time. So he was prominent then. In this particular administration, he hadn't been prominent. You barely hear him speak. You barely see him. And so the issue of recency cannot be likened to Alan as you would to Bawumia, for example. And so the perception that people have for him is more, I think, from a good side in terms of his gentle, and even if you talk about from the bad side, people might think that he's a laid back, all right? And so his performance during the campaign would be a lot more of a communication to the new emerging voters, all right? Perhaps the old guards know him, and so they could be influenced by what they know about him. But there are so many young people who I don't think have enough knowledge, enough memory about who Alan is. And so his campaign will be so crucial to these people in terms of how he communicates, in terms of how he sounds, in terms of his vision, in terms of his program, in terms of his honesty, his competencies, etc. So for me, there are quite a lot of newness, with Alan's candidature, as we do with Bawumia, for example, because the recency on Bawumia is so huge. I mean, a lot more people can write a very long essay about Bawumia than they can about Alan.
Prof, I know it's your time is up. You have to take leave of us. Let me just sneak in this bit. What do you foresee to be the impact of Alan on votes, especially in the Ashanti region, vis-a-vis his show in the Superdelegates Congress? He earned a paltry 10 votes from the superdelegates, if I recall, in the Ashanti region. That is one. And two, do you think Alan would ever make a good president? And or is he destined never to become president? What is your take? Earlier, I had Afil Money here, and he is categorical that this means Alan is never going to be president. Your take?
Well, I think you had two questions. Is he ever going to be president, or would he make a good president? I mean, I'm careful to say, because look, the confidence we had in Nanado, you have no idea. I used to call him the last Democrat standing, especially when KB Asante actually, left. I thought that he was a consummate Democrat. He would be an amazing president. And not only me, quite a lot of us have been disappointed. And so we can judge people by their characters and say they will be fantastic fathers, which Alan is, fantastic, gentleman. He really, he hesitates in terms of coming to speak. I mean, he broods over things, before he says them. So consummate, gentleman, very, critical in his perspectives. To be president is something else. As Muhammad said, you wait until you become president. So I would not stick my neck out, confidently as I would want to because of his characteristics. But we have seen evidences that we have to tone down in our expectations for people. Would he ever become president? I think that it depends on the dynamics. Look, people are craving for a certain third force, not necessarily a political party. People have been disappointed by these two political parties. They say that all the time. You also have, the campaign to deal with. Can he really mount a rigorous, very competitive political campaign that could tell people that, whoa, maybe there's something else that we have to look out for? It is all in the campaign. And I think that, leading to the time, we would have a glimpse of whether he could really shake the foundations of this duopoly and perhaps insert himself or assert himself as the president of this country.
The first part was about the impact on votes in the Ashanti region. Quickly on that so we can...
Absolutely, he's going to whittle away. I have said that he's likely to make sure that MPP doesn't get a 75% plus. Definitely he's going to whittle away. Now, if you look at the figures, MDC is getting 15-20% plus in Ashanti region. When MPP gets less than 75%, they are losing the election. With Alan, certainly they are not going to get 75%. So certainly he's going to take away quite a lot from the Ashanti region.
Prof, thank you so much for your time with us this morning. Professor Kwame Mensah is with the University of Ghana Business School. He's a political marketer as well. He joined us for that conversation. Let me come into the studio right before I go back to Haruna Mohammed. Haruna, are you still with us? Mr. Mohammed, can you hear me? Okay. Coming into the studio now. You've heard it from both ends. What do you make of, the discussion so far? Alan has resigned. I'm going independent. Mm-hmm. But what does that really mean from where you sit?
In political science, we borrowed this idea from economics that says that if you are a consumer of a particular product and you are dissatisfied, you have three options. Exit, which is, look, I'm out. Or voice, meaning I'm not happy, I'll talk about the issues, but I'm still in. And then there's the loyalty bit. There are issues, but I see no evil, I hear no evil, I'm still in, etc., right? So that's the spectrum. At the end of the day, Mr. Chemating has chosen the other end of the spectrum, which is, I have issues, I'm aggrieved, I'm dissatisfied, I'm not sure where this party is going, it's changed, etc., etc. Therefore, I'm out. I mean, for someone who has really been with the party, for all of these years, for me, his decision to actually leave and then contest as an independent is a bit of a disappointment. Okay. I do understand the issues and the challenges that he has, but party stalwarts, right? Those who have, quote unquote, invested their sweat and blood, so to speak, in trying to build a political party, don't just leave the party, right? They exercise voice and they try to, as best as they can. Look, if you look at, President Akufo-Addo's performance in MPP primaries, right, prior to becoming president, one of the things that I always observed was this reward for his loyalty to the party, right? I suspect that the delegates always looked at him and said, through the good times, through the bad times, he always stuck with us. And political parties, particularly the MPP, do reward that. That's one. If you also look at Mr. Chemating's performance in MPP primaries since his really best showing in the lead up to the 2008 elections, you do see a decline, in the number of votes he's been getting. Now, it could probably be because of the candidates he was contesting against. When the primary started, I always described Mr. Chemating respectfully as the heir apparent who may never be crowned king. You brought up this whole idea of, the president once said, Mifriswa, Alan is next, right? And even in his campaign, you could hear them use the narrative, Edrumiso. Be that as it may, all of that dynamic changed in 2008 with the entrance of Dr. Bawumia into the party. And you have to give it to the vice president, right? I mean, even in his short time in the party, he has really made inroads. He's built for himself a strong base of support, a core constituency within the party. If you think back to the 2012 petition, he was essentially, the face and voice of making the case for the
because
NPP.
He was one of those,
precisely, right?
In the case,
exactly.
in the frame. Alan's name was not there.
But even then, right? I mean, and even if you look at 2016, who was really making the case for the election of the MPP based on, the economic situation, whether you agreed with his assertions, whatever he said or didn't say, he has been there, for the party. And even as things have not been going well, as we all know, for this government, he's still taking the punches. If you observe, if you look at social media, and
but he doesn't have a choice. He
has a choice.
He ran his mouth on the economy.
Right.
He was touted as the economic whiz kid.
Right.
Now we're in the economic abyss.
Precisely.
Okay. Obviously, he's going to be one of the targets. But you speak about stalwarts.
Yeah.
Is there a bigger stalwart in the MPP than Alan Chemating, for example, in terms of character, in terms of longevity? How long has Dr. Bawumia been in the system? So do you think then that Alan Chemating shot himself in the foot by being the docile, laid-back character that he has been when Dr. Bawumia was putting his face out there? Do you think Alan, because in the past it has worked for him, stay calm, so you will not get so much to say, but now it appears he's lost that footing on the ground. Has that been his undoing?
I don't think his character, as you mentioned, cool, calm, laid back, I don't think that has been his undoing. I suspect that leaving the party, the first time, yes, he did come back and all of that, but I think leaving the party the first time sort of chipped away at some of that, is he really with us, and if it goes bad or if it doesn't go his way, then what does that mean for him and his relationship with us? So I think that has had some lingering, some lingering effect. And as I mentioned, in comes the, longevity is important, but people can have an impact and do a lot for a party even in a short space of time. And I think that is what torpedoed that narrative of longevity edumiso, right? In the sense that he had to contend with a very popular vice president in his party, or should I say, a very popular person within his party. That's what I'm trying to say. It was not easy trying to contest against Dr. Boy, and especially to most of the establishment voices, for one reason or the other, were backing the vice president. So he was really up against an uphill task. And
in that regard, there's this bit that has circulated, purported to have been penned by B.J. Darocha himself, a stalwart of the party. The first time Alan left the party, B.J. Darocha communicated in a letter to the party, if this can be corroborated, that he is being too plaintive, so to speak, and that it would be a bad and dangerous precedent for the NPP to allow any member to dictate to the party, and that welcoming him back was not in the best interest of the party. If I may read the very last part of it, it says, "In light of this, it is my considered view that it will not be in the best interest of the NPP to receive Mr. Alan Kyerematen back into the party's fold. He will become a disruptive factor in the party, a stumbling block, a loose cannon. The party has an election to win. We should concentrate our efforts on the task ahead and let him go his way in peace." And this is all the way from April 25th, Friday, 2008. Now here we are, how many years after that? 15 years after that, Alan is moving aside again. But this time, the consequences are going to be more grave for the NPP as they attempt to break the 8. Was B.J. Darocha right then?
I'm sure at that point, he felt, again, so on this spectrum, right, if you end up choosing exit, then it raises the question of the extent of your loyalty to the party.
But if things are not working...
I understand that. And I said, there are some who then may say, this doesn't show a sense of loyalty, and don't ever come back. But at the same time, political parties are also smart enough to recognize that reconciliation is a good thing, right? That if you can welcome some people back, or you can ensure that you always have a united front, even with the people who are very aggrieved, with the party, you try your best. So I'm sure with good reason and good intention, that is why they welcomed him, back into the fold. Who knows, whatever conversations may have gone.
But it must have been in the party's interest as well, because he has a constituency,
precisely.
A following.
So it also was in the best interest of the party to get him back. And then whatever conversations may have happened in the background between key voices, probably certain party respected voices, etc., etc. It's okay. We've reconciled. Let's all become friends again, and he's back. But it just looks like as time went on, and again, 2020, as we are going into 2024, primaries crop up again. Some of these issues come back again, and this time he says, he just doesn't even say I'm out. He actually says I'm out, and I'm going to run as an independent.
If you look at Alan Kyerematen, some say that there have been attempts. I listened yesterday to some officials of the NPP, and the question was thrown as to whether attempts had been made, because, this has been filtering through. It's been in the grapevines for a while that he was going to resign and that he would go independent. Whether there had been attempts from the party to talk to him and get him to rescind, even as far as the vice president trying to And the response was that indeed there had been such interactions, but it was clear that he had dug his heels in, and this is what it has come to. What do you think? Do you think that then means this is a one-way ticket? If you go, don't come back. Is that what it means for Alan?
Especially going independent. I think this is really, the sort of the divorce between Alan and the NPP. I don't foresee him returning to the party, not especially for some of the things that he said yesterday in his announcement, right? And then two, if this looks like it's something that is going to have quite an impact in 2024. So imagine the extent to which it has an impact, and imagine what it does, for example, in a stronghold like the Ashanti region, like Professor Kobi Mensah was saying. Let's say because of the Alan factor, the traditional at least 75% that the NPP gets in the Ashanti region, they don't get it, and they end up losing the election. I'm sure they would attribute part of their loss to the fact that not only did he leave the party, he also went independent. So I don't think there's a return ticket to the NPP. And for me, when you walk, the things you say when you walk away doesn't even allow you in good conscience.
Because now he's cutting the party.
Precisely.
To shreds, basically.
Exactly. So why would you even want to come back anyway someday?
But interestingly, after all that is said and done, he also says, look, should I become president, I will be the kind of leader who will accommodate people from both the MPP and the NDC. I would even appoint ministers and others from these two parties. That creates quite a picture, doesn't it? And what do you think? If 2024's election, presidential election, goes to a runoff, do you honestly think the MPP will not, and if it is on the back of the votes that Alan pulls away from both parties, but likely more from the MPP, are you suggesting the MPP will not extend an olive branch to Alan to get him back into the fray and get that support?
I don't think. I think they would. Well, I mean, as they say,
political expediency.
Of course, as they say, sometimes, politicians will do anything, even if they have to sell their grandmothers for $1, right? We tend to say that in the US. So I can see if he becomes like that real kingmaker, I wouldn't be surprised. I don't think they would really thumb their noses and say, you know what, we don't care whichever way it goes. They may not do it publicly, but I suspect that they might try. The question is, would he extend them that same grace, knowing that he has a set of grievances in which he thinks and feels that the party didn't extend him the same grace? Would he turn around and endorse the NDC in a runoff?
That is also a
far-fetched idea.
It is a real stretch of imagination to imagine that he would do that.
So he may probably say, look, my voters, choose who you... But again, we are a year away from the election, and in politics, anything can happen. Politics does sometimes make for very strange bedfellows.
What do you think, though, about his approach to the NDC and the MPP? If I become president, I'll bring in people from both parties.
I mean, that's a noble idea. I mean, if you are truly an independent candidate, it means that you can cross the partisan lines and work with anybody, right? But I mean, we've had our politicians promise a whole lot of things. We've had our politicians say, I'll be bipartisan. I'll work with, person X, person Y. I can work with anybody. But then we also then end up seeing how they behave once they are in office, once they have the power. I'm not saying that is going to be in the case of Alan, but I'm just saying that we've had some of these promises before, which didn't, materialize.
Right. Let me bring in Dr. Richard Amwakuba. He is a political stalwart. He has lectured in politics. He's a stalwart of the MPP. Doc, a very good morning to you.
Good morning to you.
It's been a while. I hope you've been keeping well.
Yes, indeed. I'm okay. I didn't touch much.
Right. In recent times, I have followed your rhetoric on, for example, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia. You have said that even his becoming vice president was not, if you look at the party structures and the processes, was not in the best of taste. To talk of his becoming a flag bearer of the party. Then you put on the other side Alan Kyerematen, who feels aggrieved that there was supposed to be a continuum. I allowed Nana Addo to go, and the agreement was that I would come after him. But now it appears the party has set him aside. What do you make of this decision to go independent, to resign from the party, first of all, and go independent?
Well, if you don't resign from the party, you cannot go independent.
Right.
So you have to do the first thing. But if your people, referees, are building walls in front of you so that you cannot proceed, you must start building ladders so you can climb the wall. And that's what he has done. He has climbed the wall and jumped up. They were using the primary election to stop him. So now he says, okay, you don't want me to go forward, take your party. I'll move forward through other means. Now, I know Ghanaians, their imagination is not very good, no doubt, so to speak. I'm not trying to insult anybody, but our culture predisposes us to think that if something has not happened, it can never happen. And it's not true. There's always a first time for everything. And so we've had independent people, but this is the first time we have a major candidate become an independent candidate. So let's give him some time. He just announced it yesterday. And in the coming months, let's see his support. Then you can assess it's a credible candidate. So let's not write him off right away. The party cannot do anything to him now. If they go and talk to him, offer him money or whatever, and he goes back, even I will not talk to him.
Oh, you're saying that you feel if the MPP offers money or whatever sort of influence to Alan Kyerematen and he goes back, even you will not talk to him?
No, that means that he's treacherous. And I know he's not.
Okay, so Doc, what this means is, let me confirm from you, are you in full support of this move by Alan Kyerematen, and are you now throwing your support behind him?
Yes, because the party I joined is not the party I see today. The rot started when Nana Addo came. You remember, or maybe you don't. I don't want this one. I can't work with this one. He brought only his friends and family members. Then the whole thinking of the group become myopic. When something is going wrong, nobody can speak up. By experience, they know. You go to cabinet meeting and you say something the president doesn't want, his anger comes on you. So now you learn very quick. Don't speak your mind. Don't tell the truth. They tell me. I have many friends who are cabinet ministers. They tell me. So you keep quiet, take your pay, and do whatever you can do. That's it. The country will never go right. And that is what is happening. We are on our knees. We are beggars. You understand? And the debt keeps going up. Once you run around seeing the Pope and whatever else, the debt is going up. 579 billion now. Printing money to destroy the economy just because that will give you a little space to get some worthless cash to pay people in the country. You did that, the whole country is going to the tube. This is what has happened. For that alone, is enough to impeach the president. Take him to task. He and the governor and the finances.
You look at everything that's happened. I have this message, interestingly, I'll just weave it into the conversation. Simon Kaja says, a man with nothing to lose has the freedom to take risks and chase his dreams. Alan has nothing to lose now.
Exactly. What do you want him to do? Just fall down and die? No. This is an avenue. At least he can express himself. He can find out whether he really has support or he does not what people are saying, not what his own party people are trying to do.
And someone says it's the first showdown. But the point is, let's face political reality. As the Daily Graphic captures it, Alan's third force agenda, farce or reality? Is this a reality? Can Alan become president? That is the main... Yes. Looking. I mean, the NDC and the MPP are in there.
I can tell you emphatically, yes. Look, there are so many situations that can happen. But I can assure you, by his candidature, Bawumia is never going to be president. That is what has happened. That is one thing for sure I can say.
So you're basically saying that the MPP, once Alan has done this, the MPP cannot win election 2024.
It cannot unless Alan himself wins. That is what is happening. Because if Kennedy loses the primary, which most likely he would, by the machinations we've seen, even if he loses fairly, Bawumia comes. It will be two people drawing the votes of Ashanti region. That spells trouble for MPP. Because anytime MPP gets about 5% of Ashanti region votes, they win. And it will not be difficult for Alan to take that 5% away. I will say he will take a whole lot more away. If he doesn't win, then Bawumia will lose for sure. That's what I see. This is statistics, not because I want it, but this is what's going to happen. So he has become a spoiler for MPP, the very opposite of what the National Council wanted. But they didn't see far. They got the opposite of what they were looking for.
So at this juncture, let's say we go into election 2024 and there is a runoff. You would not support Alan if the MPP were to come back and say, you know what, you've become the kingmaker now. Your roots are from here. Support us. You would not support that call?
No. That means he's a rascal too.
That would mean he's a rascal too. Is that what you said?
Yes. And I know he's not a rascal. Yes, that's what I'm saying. You don't go and make profound statements and then you backtrack and say, oh, I'm sorry, they talked to me, so what? Said you, what? No. Stand your ground. Believe in where you stand. Speak the truth. You have spoken the truth. They have not treated you well. They are using tricks and shenanigans for one candidate to come forward. It's all true. Don't we know? When Kennedy said, showdown, oh, National Council, call him here. Come and answer. What? You have not seen Bawumia campaigning for, Wuntini campaigning for Bawumia as if he's the campaign chairman for Bawumia? Is that how it's done? The referee has taken time. Is that how it's done? No. Then the National Council goes, oh, there's nothing in the Constitution that says party officers cannot support them. What? Are you saying, you are changing your mouth now and midstream? This is disingenuous. This is dishonest. Unacceptable. Shameful. That is what is happening. And we are not children.
Some people are saying this is the first showdown. Kennedy Agyapong promised the president and the vice a showdown. Some are saying this is the first showdown from Alan Shemanteng. But let's look at the other side of the coin. Alan has stepped aside from the MPP before. Like I was reading a short while earlier. Then we heard from BJ Darocha, who actually said, don't accept him back. But the party did. Of course, he comes with a lot of clout and all of that. I could read for you, but I think it would just be an add-on to time. He was taken back in 2008, and now we're here. He's at the crossroads, and he's disengaging from the MPP once more. Some say that is treacherous, and that he is not loyal to the MPP. He is loyal to himself. This then means it's a one-way ticket. There's no coming back for Alan, right?
Well, yes. That's what I've been saying. It's a one-way ticket. You cannot be loyal to a party without being loyal to yourself first. You have to believe in what you are saying, and what you are made of. If you believe strongly that you've been mistreated, or you have been not just mistreated, you understand? The list of grievances go on and on and on and on. Then either you resign or do something else. And now he has chosen to do something else. Let's give him the chance to see how that something else is going to pan out before we say, oh, he doesn't have a chance and he doesn't have the constituency and whatever. One day, can you get a constituency in one day? Don't give him time. Let's see what happens. You'll be shocked that so many people may come in and support him, and that will galvanize his campaign to be nationwide acceptable. That independent candidate can win. I have no doubt of that. No doubt at all. He said tougher times demand tougher decisions. This is what brought Obama. Who would have thought a black man in America, at the time he became president, would become president? Nobody would vote for him. But the things were bad, real hard. And so when they looked at the alternative, he was the best choice, and they voted for him.
So just, I mean, right before you go, just briefly, some 20 seconds if you like. So there's no breaking the eight, and Dr. Bawumia Kennedy Agyapong can kiss their presidential ambitions goodbye, right?
Pretty much, except it's a caveat. If Kennedy beats Bawumia in the primary, then there's a possibility of him being the winner. That's the thing, because I don't think Alan is upset with Kennedy. In fact, they are on the same side, being upset about the shenanigans that is going on. And so it's entirely possible. If Alan sees that his support is not as big as he would like it to be, he can throw his support behind Kennedy if he is a candidate.
Okay.
The problem is, would they allow him to come forward, or is he going to be stopped in this primary, whether by fairness or not? I don't know. So,
Doc,
there are still some questions to be answered, so let's wait.
All right. Doc, we're so grateful that you took the time to join us this morning. Dr. Richard Amwakoba, he's a political scientist and a stalwart of the new Patriotic Party. Coming back into the studio as we wrap the conversation. So you have numerous viewpoints, but there seems to be this convergence on the fact that with what Alan has done, the MPP likely wouldn't win election 2024, regardless of whom they present. But the point has also been made, maybe better with Kennedy Agyapong than Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia. In conclusion, what are your thoughts moving forward for the new Patriotic Party, and how maybe the party should approach dealing with this situation as they speak to us at 2 p.m.?
Well, they were already going into a very difficult election year. The political winds are blowing against them, particularly if you look at the state of the economy and other matters that have aggrieved Ghanaians. So life is already difficult for them as they prepare for 2024. Then in comes the Alan factor that adds another layer of difficulty. At this point, I don't see them, I don't think they are obligated to treat Alan with soft gloves, because he is no longer, quote unquote, one of them, right? So I'm sure they would, quote unquote, punch him the same way they would punch any political opponent. I mean, when he initially expressed grievances about, the super delegate Saturday, at that point I could see why they would be very careful in how, they respond to all of those things. But at this point, he has left the party. He's essentially a political adversary because he wants the same thing that they want in 2024. So I do see them responding very, very forcefully to the charges that he's raised about, the party. And I'm sure in 2024, as one of the contestants, they will treat him just the same way as they will treat any other contestants, because now he poses a threat to the party. I mean, if you look at the competitive nature of our elections, even if he takes 3-4% away, right, assuming that, he's going to draw, he's definitely going to draw some MPP votes. I mean, even if he chips away 3-4%, that
could be the undoing.
Yes, that could definitely be the undoing of the party. And again, like I said, they are already going into a very difficult election year, and now another layer of difficulty has been added onto 2024 for them.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. John Osai Kwapong, for joining the conversation this morning. We also had Haruna Mohammed, Deputy General Secretary of the NPP. We had Professor Kobi Mensah of the UGBS, University of Ghana Business School, also a political marketer, joining the conversation. Then we also had Dr. Richard Amwakoba, a political scientist and a stalwart of the NPP. I guess it's fitting to ask, is it game, set and match for the NPP ahead of election 2024? Time will tell. But up next, stay with us. because having spoken on the political front, we'll also be heading to Buipe as we look at the recent flooding there with over 1,500 people displaced and in miserable conditions. That discussion up next on the AM show. Well, thank you for staying with us. From the political front, we move over to talk about that pathetic situation of residents of Buipe in the Savannah region. And we have a statement from the Bui Power that I will be reading, the Bui Power Authority. But just to introduce our guests for now, joining the conversation, we have Mbongura Mustafa, Central Gonja Director of NADMO, and also in the fray, Isaac Nonya, Savannah Regional Correspondent. Let me start the conversation off with that press release from the Bui Power Authority debunking stories reported on myjoyonline.com and Joy 99.7 FM, supposedly saying that they have taken notice of an article published by these platforms titled "Flood from Bui Dam Spillage Leaves 1,500 Residents Displaced in Buipe," purporting that the flood from the Bui Dam spillage had left 1,500 residents displaced in Buipe, situated in the central Gonja district of the Savannah region. Bui Power Authority wishes to emphatically state that we have not been involved in any spillage activity. It is important to note that whenever there is the need to engage in a spillage, comprehensive measures are taken to provide adequate notice and education to all communities along the downstream river channels and all stakeholders. These measures are implemented to ensure the safety of lives and property before, during, and after spillage. We hereby strongly advise myjoyonline.com and Joy 99.7 FM to retract the publication and issue an apology through the same medium and refrain from making any further defamatory statements against the Bui Power Authority. And that is dated the 26th day of September 2023. All right, now that we've got that out of the way, obviously flooding causing this, we'll get to the discussion with our guests, but I'll start with Isaac Nonya. Isaac, so what is the latest that you can report as far as those displaced are concerned? Hello, Isaac, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right. I was asking, what is the latest you can report? I know a lot of people have been displaced. What is the current, status of these people?
At the moment, 14 children had elected at the primary school for them to live in. And a few of them relocated to join some families outside the township. Currently, as Danbo said, that about 800 people were received yesterday from the tent, and many of them happen to be children and a woman. A development, they said they are very worried because, as we speak, there's not anything like food items to feed these people who are staying with them.
So basically, these people, how have they been able to keep body and soul together? What have they been doing?
Yes, the few who were able to go there with food items, at least I make do with it, and then I share it with our colleagues. We are told between now and tomorrow, they will be receiving some food items from the Savannah Regional Minister, Said Muaz Jibril. Apart from that, you will realize that the Ghana Red Cross has given some tents, and they are seeing mobilizing to relief items in terms of food packages for them. But as to when it will come, we don't know. Behind me are a number of houses that have been flooded reduced. That will say that between now and tomorrow, unless something else happens.
I see. So this obviously is on the back of the downpour a few days ago, right? I mean, it's the rain that caused the flooding. Hello, Isaac. All right, let me try to see whether I can get Mbongra Mustafa to join the conversation. He is Central Gonja Director of NADMO. Mbongra, a very good morning to you.
Good morning, and good morning to our cherished listeners.
Right. So I was asking a question of Isaac. Maybe you can confirm for me. It is on the back of the rain a few days ago that this has happened, right?
Please, your line is not clear.
Can you hear me, Mbongra?
Can you repeat the question again?
Can you hear me now, Mbongra?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay. It appears you are also on the move, so you may have to maybe...
I'm just getting myself to a place where you can explain.
Good. I think that will enable the conversation. All I am asking is for your corroboration. So this was basically caused by the rains a few days ago, right? This flooding incident.
Thank you very much. With regard to that, is what we still cannot authenticate very well. Though the Bureau Authority has debunked that they have not spilled. But in Bupe, we don't have excessive rain as expected this year. Though yesterday they were made to know that the two rivers where they met at the confluence possibly might also contribute to this flood. That is per one of the technical men on ground. So that is our check. Because the water still coming. Yesterday, as at around 4 to 5, people left the market to their supply. They came their homes, all their mattresses were soaked in the water. A good number of people have to be displaced last evening, which is very bad.
But that's an interesting scenario. That's why I intentionally read the statement from the Bui Power Authority. Are you saying, as of now, we cannot confirm whether it was the rain a few days ago, specifically on Friday, or the spillage of the dam, which the Bui Power Authority says it did not conduct, that led to this? We can't confirm?
That is, we have to just rely on the rain. Because actually, Bupe itself, we don't have excessive rain as expected. This year, Bupe is not recording any massive rain. So that is a surprising thing. Where the water comes from is our problem.
I see.
Are you with me, please?
Yes, I am.
Yes, in Bupe, if you come, you confirm that Bupe, we don't receive the rains as other regions or other communities we have across the country. But the water keeps coming and destroying a lot of people.
So what you're saying is it is implausible that the rain caused this. There must have been something else, right?
Possibly. That is my assertion. But for Bupe, as we speak, if we were to have rain as we see other communities around, Bupe, the destruction that we have been had, it will be more. Because if we're having more rains as we see around, coupled with the kind of water we are having now, the whole of the entire the community in which the flood is happening will have been evacuated completely. Seriously. Because we don't have rains at all in the place. The clouds will gather. Maybe it will just drizzle from 5 to 10 minutes and off. So ideally in Bupe itself, we don't receive rain. But the water level keeps increasing. As at yesterday, in the evening around 4 to 5, the water level has increased beyond expectation. No, we don't have it today in Bupe.
So there is no rain, yet the water keeps increasing.
Your reporter is currently in Bupe, and he can confirm and attest the fact that Bupe there's no rain. About 4 to 5 days now, we haven't received any rain, but the water level keeps increasing.
I see. That's an interesting scenario.
The water is in Bupe currently, and if anybody who is found Bupe and can attest the fact that Bupe about 4 to 5 days now, we have not had any rain. But the water keeps increasing, and more people are being displaced from their homes.
All right.
Your reporter is currently in Bupe, and he can confirm what I'm saying.
Okay, so how then do you take this statement from the Bui Power Authority?
Once they have, clarified that they have not failed, because my argument was that last year they did, according to them, they did some testing or spillage, but without informing us formally, and they came to the community. But so we were thinking that possibly, but for the fact that the water that came last year could not also gone back. You understand that? And so, coupled with the little rains that we have, also flooded. But I am still surprised because Bupe itself, we don't have rain.
All right.
So what is going on in Bupe is just a surprising thing to me.
All right. I think we've got that out of the way in terms of clarity. Now, in terms of those who have been displaced, we are looking at about 1,500 people. What relief efforts have been brought to bear on the ground for these people?
We are assessing the situation and compiling the report and sharing with our headquarters and other, as we speak, we share with our headquarters through our regional office, we share with the district assembly, we share with members of parliament, we share with other benevolent organizations, including some factories within Bupe. I think that one will be addressed soon with the authorities that we sent with. But for now, what we are able to do is that Red Cross have been able to assist them with shelter kits. But now we are camping them and we are assisting them with temporary accommodation. So with regards to any other relief item that will come, that one our authority, higher authority must speak on that. But for now, we haven't received any authority from either the assembly or our headquarters or any member of parliament. So we are still waiting on them. But the people need immediate assistance because
and that was exactly what I was about to get to. Some of them don't even have food to eat, so they don't have shelter. How do you expect them to stay alive in these conditions?
That is a fact. As for that one, it's a fact because we are with the people. We see how stressful they are. In fact, they are going through a lot of trauma, and indeed we use your platform to appeal to our headquarters and a member of parliament and all other agencies that got this information to quickly mobilize and come to the aid of the people.
Who is the member of parliament for that area specifically?
Honorable Abdullah John Jinapo is a member of parliament for Yato Kusovo.
The Minister for Lands and Natural Resources.
Is part of Yato Kusovo constituency.
All right. I hear there are attempts to reach him to join this conversation so we can find out what he is doing in his capacity. Of course, always there is some assistance from the members of parliament. But then what does this mean? What next for the people? Days, no food, no support, no shelter. It is only those who were able to live with a little food who have some sustenance. What next for them?
That is what we sympathize with the people because they are now in the trying times. And naturally, we as NADMO at the district level, we sympathize with the people. And it is good you all support us to share this information to everybody that matters, that can come to the aid of the people. Because they are going through a lot of hell. Because the number that we see being displaced is not expected of us. We were not expecting that great number. And as that, even they how to bring them together to accommodate them, it's a challenge to us because today, if we bring all of them together, we may not be able to take care of them because we haven't heard from any of our big authorities, the higher authorities. So we are calling on everybody and our authority to come to the aid of these victims.
So as it stands now, before I go back to Isaac Nonya, as it stands now, you're saying that as the Central Gonja NADMO Directorate, there's very little you can do for these people. Your hands are tied until you hear from HQ.
Exactly.
Hold for me, Mbongra. Let me bring back Isaac Nonya. Isaac, can you hear me?
Yes, Benjamin.
Great. So I'm sure you are privy to that. I'm sure you are privy to that statement from the Bui Power Authority. It's interesting because Mbongra says there's been no rain in Buipe in a number of days, yet the water still keeps coming into that area. And the Bui Power Authority also says it has nothing to do with any spillage. What can you tell us? Is there any update on that in terms of the source of this flooding?
Yeah, Benjamin, your guess is as good as mine because somebody somewhere is not telling us the truth.
All right, we'll try to...
Assuming that at least everybody, what everybody say now?
All right, Isaac, here's what we're going to do. We're going to try to, and that is what I thought we would have done by now, we're going to try to call you on the phone lines so that we can have that interaction without any hitches. I appreciate that the connectivity may not be too good from where you are connecting with us. But Umbaura, very quickly, it appears from the little that we've got from Isaac Nonya that he is as surprised as you are. And he suggests that someone is not telling the truth.
Hello?
Umbaura, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, so I'm saying that while we try to reconnect with Isaac Nonya, I am saying that the little we got of him before the connectivity issues, he is saying that he is as surprised as you are and that someone is not telling the truth.
Your question is not clear, please.
Can you hear me?
No, yes, I can hear you. But
okay, just hold for me. Let me go to Isaac. I'll come right back to you. Isaac, you were making a point suggesting that someone wasn't telling the truth.
Benjamin, somebody is not telling the truth in the sense that the question are asking, if last year the Buni authorities failed to be done, and they're concerned by number of officials here, and then this year, the same authorities contacted 5 district directors of Mampong, Bole, Butte, Banda, and that of Interpol Law to submit a budget for them to come around. They use 7 days to certify people stay along the river bank because their water level was so high. And if that budget was submitted, and we Dam has not gotten back to them, the question is, why did they come to tell the officers to submit a budget? Have they come to educate the people? If no, have they spilled the bank? They have not spilled the bank. But they said the water was high. Because as the right they listened, it has not rained for a number of days now. But if it comes there, the water keeps on increasing. We have close to the main market of Butte also being flooded. We saw families flooded in their rooms. So unless government should come in, as the regional minister suggested, they will come in officially to bring that more and then bring them together. Because all know that the black water shares its source with breeders, while the white water around the not going just right, shares its source with the breeders. So where from this water? We don't need to come for, we have to come again. We are not saying to fill the water, but they need to examine the sources. Yesterday, I was from Bamboy, and somebody told me that the water level was high, but of late the sea that is moving towards up here. So when that water will flow into the Bamboy River, because they consider that no receipt will not rain this year. So it's high time the two not go from the legislature and then the big authorities sit down with government to make sure that anytime anything wants to happen regarding spillage, they need to come together and then do the needful. Or last year it happened, this year it has happened. You don't know next year, the second year, what will happen, whether it will be the worst or not. I will speak, a lot of people who are supposed to be in the camp at home. They are not going to camp because all the camps are messed. When you are estimating, there's a community that named Sawaba. You're all affected. That it has gone beyond Sawaba to 2 other communities, getting closer to this junction. 25 kilometers away from Butte. So where is that water coming from? Is it rainfall? Certainly no.
And unless maybe the water is coming from the ground or something.
Assuming it's coming from the ground. Where was that water from? Was it from the largest village? The largest village of Breedam, was it from that one? Because obviously, if the ground is saturated from the last year water, any water not coming to that environment will resurface. So the ground is not good. And the answer that you raised regarding the relief action, no official apart from the Ghana Red Cross Society that supplies the protein
family tends to them. No food, no water, nothing. The other facility added, the 6 minute classroom that was added to them. It's almost for 11-1 in occupied. And according to NADMO, as of yesterday, instead of 70, 80, yesterday they gathered 100 people, and a good number of them were children and pregnant women.
Isaac.
I'm here.
Yes. So that's this is a very troubling situation from our end, especially because we cannot even determine the source of the problem. I mean, for starters, it's very problematic. The water keeps coming, as Mbongra has rightly stated, and you can't even tell what the source is. And the Bui-Power Authority is saying, we are not responsible, and we don't know. And it's not raining, so it means it cannot be the rain over the last 5 days at least that have caused this. And that must be very confusing for the people who are stranded and have nothing, no assistance as of now, because NADMO is also, they have their hands tied. So how have the people basically been getting by?
Benjamin, let me tell you this. As of last year's village, the chief of Bupe, the Paula Abdullah Jinapo, in an interview, confirmed that the women was from Sweden. The DC, Kamara, confirmed was from Sweden. The number confirmed. But we came and denied last year. Only for them to come back to the chief to confirm that they're failing. Now, the chief also told them after he was confirmed that we shouldn't say what he told us earlier on. It's obvious that some of the economical with the truth. They have to look to the eyes of people and tell the truth. Because some of the reasons we spoke to, one other something, made the same thing. That look, this year would not have no rain. This water is from the top. Where is that from? That breed dam. That was the allegation he said he gave.
Right. So this is a pretty delicate situation. We're just hoping that in the coming hours and, maybe throughout the day, we can get some assistance. Mbongra, we're grateful that you were able to join us for this conversation. And we wish you the very best on that endeavor. Mbongra Mustafa is Central Gonja Director of NADMO. And we also had, just a short while ago, Isaac Nonya Savannah, our Savannah regional correspondent. So very interesting commentary from both ends. But let's now introduce into the conversation Abdul Rashid Hassan Pelpo, Member of Parliament, Wa Central. A very good morning to you, sir.
Hello, good morning, my brother.
I don't know how good the morning is on the back of this latest development. You represent that caucus, pushing for something to be done about this situation. How did you receive the news?
Well, I thank you so much. I received this news with a lot of pain and disturbance. The fact that we have this perennial problem and we have no answer to it. Now we are even arguing whether it is because of the Bagri Dam or because of the rain. It shows lack of scientific approach to this whole issue. And it also shows lack of commitment as to what exactly will reduce our yearly food supply. It's just not about the people who are suffering now. It's about the totality of our food stock being hampered by situations that we can easily understand and control. And we seem not to be caring much about it. It's a disturbing situation.
Now, from where you sit, I mean, it's been a few days now. There's no relief support, so to speak, from NADMO. They are also sitting, waiting for some goods or logistics to come from HQ. So Central Gonja NADMO has its hands tied. In the meantime, about 1,500 people have been displaced. How do you feel about that?
It's part of the general lukewarm attitude of this present situation we have, present governance system we are seeing. Anything about planning ahead, about development, about issues that can be analyzed scientifically and with approaches that can solve the problem are relegated to the background, except when they say, oh, there's a load coming, then everybody is up and doing and running. But that's wrong. We need to plan ahead. You know that this is a perennial problem. You don't need to go to Burkina to say, have you opened the dam before? You should plan ahead. and say that within this period and this period, these are likely to happen. What are the alternatives we are going to use? Then you plan it and let us understand exactly what you are doing. And then you can approach the situation scientifically and with approaches that can, relieve the people of this yearly pressure they have. They have no such understanding of it. And look at NADMO. NADMO by this time should have had a satellite view from Ghana, view what exactly is happening there. And you can report by yourself that, look, we have watched the place. This is the river line coming from into Ghana. Now water is flowing there at this volume. Between this time and this time, it will hit Ghana. So we need to prepare about it. And last year experience should have gotten a feeling that this time we would have to prepare adequately, provide the needed resources because it's likely to happen. How come that in the United States, I'm just using it as an example, not because we are equal to the United States. Somebody will call and say, oh, look, you are using the United States. We are not equal to them, but we are practicing their democracy. We are riding their cars. We are happy about them, but we don't want to practice the things that can help us. They are able to project and say that, look, at this time, a hurricane will hit this place, so the people will be evacuated. They will do ABCD. You can copy a lot more things that are more expensive than just doing a satellite vision and projecting that. And then you cannot copy this simple technology. Even if you don't have the technology right now, it is purchasable. We can buy it. You can even contract a company to do it for us. So we understand that between now and next week, flood will be coming to your country. You need to plan towards it. So I think that it's a disturbing situation that a whole people are subjected to this situation on perennial basis, and we are unable to solve the problem, and we are throwing our hands. NADMO is throwing its hands. It's even sitting down. They are saying there are no resources coming. From where? You didn't plan for it. And if it were to come from government has not planned for it. And government is as helpless as I am here and the poor people. So what is the use of paying money to them and getting them to do all the things they are doing? Paying salaries, getting them to ride cars and et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
So we are let down by our own government.
Thank you for joining the conversation, Abdul Rashid Hassan Pelpo. He is Member of Parliament, Wa Central. Before that, we had Mbonwura Mustafa, Central Gonja Director of NADMO, joining the conversation, and Isaac Nonya, our Savannah Regional Correspondent. Sometimes I ask myself, maybe we should shift our political season to the rainy season so that voting will happen in that season, so that if you've not done the right thing and there's flooding and the rest, people will not go out and vote. Maybe that's one of the ways to get our political actors to sit up. Because if people are not coming to vote for you, maybe you'll think twice. These things happen, and look at these people, stranded. You wouldn't want to be in their shoes. Stranded, completely stranded. No food, no real accommodation, exposed to the elements. What a country. This is still the AM show. We'll be back with a bit more. Do stay. Well, the very next conversation we're having has to do with the African Free Trade Area, of course, headquartered here in Accra. But what are the boons we've got from that grouping? In 2018, this came to the fore, 54 African countries to be covered. But with some years on, we're still looking at those full benefits. Well, today we'll be having an interaction with the Executive Director of the Center for Regional Integration, Africa, on some of the developments they have lined up in respect of the AfTA arrangement. She's in the person of, and I'm going to try my hardest on this, Professor Lithanolu Tho. And I know I've butchered her name, but she's going to give it better. Prof, tell us what your name is as you would pronounce it.
Inshira.
Inshira? Okay.
That is the meaning of Lethohonolo.
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 Tho.
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 Okay,
Yes.
so you see what languages are like. She's doing the clicks and everything, and I'm simply not used to those. But wonderful name, Inshira. So Inshira Inchi, blessing, right?
That's right. That's
Okay,
right.
good to have you in the studio.
Thank you for having me.
But tell us a bit about, the Center for Regional Integration Africa. What is it that you do? How long have you been around?
Well, the Center for Regional Integration in Africa, we call it CRIA, has been around for some years now.
Okay.
We are essentially a center established to support the processes of regional integration and continental trade by way of research, capacity building, and also advocacy. So, I mean, you can do each one of those separately, but we tend to do them together. You can't do capacity building without doing the research to find out who needs building of capacity, what are the issues, and how will they actually strengthen implementation processes, and so on and so forth.
That's very interesting, because on the back of the AFTA, there have been a lot of complaints about the actuals, the real merits of the AFTA, and how it can be brought to bear in African countries. And here you are organizing this upcoming forum. So this is the Regional Integration Issues Forum, which kickstarts tomorrow.
That's right, the RIF.
Right. Why this forum, though? Why this forum?
Well, the forum is really a partnership program that we established with the African Capacity Building Foundation in 2017. And we realized that capacity was one of the issues that was lacking in promoting intra-African trade and regional integration generally. So we got together with the ACBF and developed a platform that brings together multi-sectoral stakeholders. And essentially, we bring them together to raise awareness about regional integration, to build their capacity to engage meaningfully in processes of regional integration, and also to simply ensure that we are tracking some of the engagements in processes of implementation.
In terms of impact or outcomes, what are you hoping that at the end of this two-day, conference or forum, you're going to be achieving or seeing? What's the planned impact?
Yeah, well, so it's 2 days, as you rightly noted. And the first day is the conference. We'll start with an opening ceremony chaired by Nana Dr. Owusu Afari, who is a past president of AGI, the Association of Ghana Industries. And then we also will have partner remarks, of course, during that period of time, and some remarks from the private sector, namely the executive director of the Pan-African Chamber of Commerce and Industries based in Addis Ababa. And then we'll have SME remarks. But the highlight of the ceremony, of course, will be the keynote address of the Secretary General of the
AFTA?
AFCFTA.
Right.
That's right. So that's in the morning, of course, and then all afternoon we'll have engagements through plenary, breakout sessions, and interactive sessions with SME participants on various issues, looking at questions of SME financing to enable them access cross-border trade and that sort of thing, to questions of how do SMEs really break into that cycle of regional value chains and the process of actually developing their own products, their goods and services, so that they can be competitive in other markets. So there's a whole range of questions that will be looked at and issues to be discussed. We are not producing a conference where we are preaching to SMEs. They're actually integrated into the process of sharing knowledge and information.
Right.
Because we have expert knowledge from the so-called experts, and then we have practical knowledge, which is also expert from the experience of these SMEs. So that's day one.
So that's just day one?
That's just day one.
It's a 2-day event. So the
2
conference
days.
starts and then you'll have all these breakout deliberations with the others. What happens then on day 2?
Day 2 will be a training session for pre-selected SMEs who are coming from, yes, Ghana, they're coming from Togo, Nigeria, Burkina Faso, Cameroon, Zimbabwe, South Africa, Liberia, and so on and so forth. So it should be a cross-fertilization of ideas and thoughts and concerns from SMEs that range the gamut of sectoral, production and services, as well as markets, different markets. And so what we hope, to answer your question, is that we will have raised awareness. AFCFTA has been very generous in sending a delegation of panelists and training facilitators, and so they've endorsed this conference in the most generous way. And then, of course, awareness raising is key and part of the objective of the RIF, but also we hope to build confidence in the SMEs to feel empowered to really engage the process. Because that has been the problem, is the lack of inclusivity and engagement. And then finally, to begin that crucial conversation about how it is that SMEs can actually explore processes of adding value to their products. And that's part of the AFCFTA private sector strategy that needs to be known and implemented.
All right. So where is this conference taking place, and at what time does it start tomorrow?
Yes, you're invited. It starts at 8:30 and ends at 9, and it is taking place at Movenpick Hotel. And that's just right next door to the AFCFTA Secretariat.
So it starts at 8:30 in the morning?
Yes.
And ends at 9 in the evening?
Ends at 9.
Okay, is that for both days?
Oh, sorry, no.
Because it's
8:30 in the morning, ends at 5.
Ends at 5. I was a bit curious about going all the way to 9. And you've already spoken to us about some of those that you're expecting, the AFTA Secretary General and all of that. Which other dignitaries are showing up tomorrow and over the next 2 days?
Well, dignitaries by definition means important people. So we consider all the participants
definitely, all of them. But I'm sure there are special people that you've targeted, speakers among others.
Yes, I mean, in the audience, of course, will be the diplomatic corps and others, special guests.
Okay.
But in terms of speakers, we have, as I said earlier, members of the secretariat staff of the AFCFTA. We have representative from Afro Champions, which is a group that has done enormous work in the area of championing the AFCFTA. We also have the banking sector represented by ABSA, EcoBank, and Société Générale, who will be talking about SME financing and that issue, those issues. We have some lecturers who will be looking at the question of regulatory frameworks and how they need to be rethought to actually support the work of the private sector. And there's a whole gamut.
So it's a whole range of issues that will be discussed.
And probably really exciting for some will be a session on innovation, harnessing the power of innovation and technology, which will really be directed, guided, and discussed by SMEs who are led by the youth, engaged in very innovative issues. One of them is coming from Nigeria, and they won a prize in 2021 or 2022, presented by Forbes Africa. So they're doing very well. So they're very exciting kinds of innovative things people are doing.
I'm excited already.
Yes.
And I think I should definitely pass through. In some 10 seconds, any parting words?
Parting words. Yes, I think that we have to understand that AFCFTA is a massive machinery. You know, there's so many moving parts. We're talking about SMEs, small, medium enterprises, but there are many, many, many more in this ecosystem who would have to support SMEs. What is the press going to do? How does the press need to be trained effectively to actually, tell the good stories that are coming out of those who are engaging in cross-border trade to effectively implement the AFCFTA? What are the think tanks doing, the tertiary institutions doing in terms of research and providing added support to SMEs who need to understand the trends taking place in the markets and so on and so on. So the point is that we all need to engage in the process, not just for SMEs, but with SMEs.
Interesting, and all of us ought to make our way there, participate, and that is going to be a big one, all a win for the AFTA. And this time I'm going to stick to the surname, Professor Tholu, joining the conversation, Executive Director, Center for Regional Integration Africa. That program at the Movenpick Ambassador Hotel, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. tomorrow and the day after that. Now, before we segue into our parting conversation, it's more of an interaction in respect of Alan Tremanting's decision to go independent and also resign from the MPP. Let me just let you know about your favorite TV game show in Ghana, Step Up, which is back with another amazing season. This time, we're stepping up with Syntex Tank. Step Up with Syntex Tank. We'll see contestants answer trivia questions to win cash prizes of between 400 Ghana cedis and over 6,000 Ghana cedis weekly. There are also other products from our sponsors. This season, for you viewing at home, you should watch out for the Syntex Tank question of the week. Be the first to answer correctly via WhatsApp or SMS to the number 0508 338 888 and win incredible prizes from sponsors. The person who answers most of the weekly questions the fastest gets a 65-inch Samsung television at the end of the season. So step up with Syntex Tank, a unique television experience. Step Up with Syntex Tank is sponsored by Bell Ice, MTN Momo, and Angel Cola. Well, it is the final showdown, and which school will emerge the overall winner of the maiden edition of Joy Prime's Big Chef Tertiary and run off with a cash prize of 20,000 Ghana cedis, 10,000 liters of Syntex Tank, and other amazing products from our sponsors. Big Chef Tertiary Grand Finale is coming to the Volta region, specifically Ho Technical University campus, on Sunday, the 1st of October 2023 at 4 p.m. You have a 40% say in this grand finale voting for your favorite institution via the short code *713*208# and follow the prompt. Takoradi Technical University, Kumasi Technical University, Ho Technical University, and residents of Ho are invited to join Joy Prime, the Big Chef finalists, and Premier Unique Keep Fit Club for an aerobics session at the Volta Serene Hotel Tennis Court on Saturday, September the 30th, 2023 at 6 a.m. Big Chef is sponsored by Phytol Cooking Oil, Fortune Rice, Indomie, Syntex Tank, Access Bank, U Fresh Drinks, and Trinity Oil. It's supported by Volta Serene Hotel, Atlas Rent, a Car, and Sky Plus Hotel and Resort. Look forward to those packages over the weekend. But time now for us to head to Kumasi. Yesterday, we interacted with some stalwarts of the MPP, or just ordinary people on the streets, about how they felt about Alan Tremanting's resignation and independent candidacy. And this is what they had to say. This is how we wrap the AM show this morning.
Because Ghana is a baby, Ghana na dunia hu nukre ya to ma party hu ya to ma party bi hu eti enya independent president a obetuma bua youth na ma nya adwuma ya because magazine for yeso papa ukuta sika kakra bi uri korea business man na hye ka ona for social spare pass board nye ne ma ne bua eden oba ko port akoyi ne ma first ukuta to sika to bia 40 feet utimi and I would could have just 100,000. Old currency 1 billion. I don't for 40 feet container. A 2 about 20 say, just about here businessman. do bet ma bua o man no ama yen youth na wo mu yen adwuma yen pe lawyer yen pe professor ne ho wa bia bia omo si ala ya ti omo nti ase no omo nkwa shepo yen magazine for the eternity ye geneti pampe ye geneti asa ba bi obekọ bia ye support no ye dey support ye dey sika ye dey ahoɔden ye bibia betala achi ama nkunim die so ne safa ye onya didi onya me mu say ala 2024 oba ba president and oba ba shake Ghana ya pa job for the people cast for the people
and also see people why
okay that is so mama hu say asem we a amoaye b amoaye e say omu nyina mama hu say omu nyina agina ba bi fa akọ ebe ya nka mesika say kura de kiesi sem kura ne mpo bi ono no ye nim no ba bi akura ne kofa no mra medu o man so because that ye hu de ekọ
obi enim ba bi na say
ye tie ma meka say nye so obi enim ne ba bi a obi o ye Ghana ni a ye be say ono so e clever kakra obetima bu o man no nye say enim a na enim sa akwa ye nye ne sa but ye me make akosi ni say omo tete so no omo me hu obi bu say wo na oba be Ghana ye obe Ghana ye na o say ya bi ye hwe de oba no adeti na say president o kasa sa ye kasa sa Yesu Kristo kura oba no me hu anim onyam say hon kokro na be di kiaba eti say Ghana say na be ye sa de a ye mpese be ye basabasa ye de say Ghana enter din man na imom ye hwe yin obi afiri won ye mfa nipa wofo bi a ye nyina obi anim no a o ye clever obetima bu o man no asem we maka akoso aka because o de ko ma e a binim ne dada o de ko ma si a si nim ya nyina alphabet nyina ba akopɛ di Ghana de no kwasem mom ye nyina afi anu nto fom na se ye nyina ye benya botre apɛ nipa ba akopɛ bi a oben betima ahwɛ o man no so ma ya ye hwɛ ne nka ho asem enye omo nim amamuo no a omo teto a we afiri ho no na we aba be discan kakra we discan we na we so aba na we abedi kakra we kwa os minua na eba ye nye ne saa wo se esa na ye anya busua me o asema minua ne ka no esa na oman no protect because obia pese o kire say oman no pese o be president obia pese obedi every say ye hu de o ye wise o pese o ye Ghana yi etimu me afi ani ntoto fom eden ya so a ye benya di papa because say ye fukuro mu ma enyina ba ko a ede ye benya obi a on de obe good tibe bo ho pa say nya wo pom wa e na enyina ye be ba ko ye mpa ni ba wo fro ye mpa bi ye nkofa z emra no me he man no
de nti a emuala ne say ade no eye group eye kuo na ye nyina ye den ye dwen wo de ebeduru mra emu adini bia no na wa ye den na watwo nti ala wonye be ma wo ye hufo
on nchemu ne say NPP niema ekoso NPP na ni nye ho omonye fair especially presidential ina moto ye no aba no moto ye for delegates super delegate election no ni ade ni nya fair ade na maka ejina ho say ejina ba bi ejina say wo ye hufu
de ntia wo ye hufu ne say enye we na ye first time o wo de duru ba bi a edin bia na wo se matwe me ho sa na otwen ho na okoye na obaye onso ye ka obi a party na aboa wa ye wo alan if it's a Ghana ha no MPP na ama wo wa be ye alan it's a ukro ye na wo san ko bi kakra bi na sa wo se wa twen ho a ono na be ko atia no e go mu se party ye nyina ye party se ye nyina ye kan ye ho bom na kwa a wo ko no onya tan nkora mpo if it's a nkrofo no mudi na nyina o mu nya o mu ye lusa wo kwa adenta ye bu abia samoa seat na ye MPP seat ye ga bia samoa ta mo NDC for the seat ne simple if ye nsem oko enzema ho a katra feku seat no NDC for the free ensem simple sa ko fo we nyina adi wachi na je se woro kra no wunim di wo ye se wo hia team strong team on betimi adi wachi ama team di aye bibi
o adwene se
pese mebusa nana do se o kai se Alan emra mo to aba e call se ke mo ko second round no Alan da odo di se papa ko na mo ko abeboa ama party no yetime di nkonim na so ntime ka we nyina na so timi tie ba omiachi